that jacket, Doc. Come on.
Hey, how are you?
I think we're doing. My father felt like this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh no, no. Well. No, you're all going to stay for this first, and then you guys are ahead. it's a work session, so we're not doing the pledge or anything. Yep. You see this drawing? Some audit questions. Do you want to ask any of them? Really? Yeah, there's a couple. Fiscal matter 12, 14, 17, 20. And do you want to take 12 and 14? David? We take fiscal audit questions. I want to ask fiscal matter 17 and 20.
Yeah. 17. Oh, that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine. We want to do 17.
If you want to do 17 and 20, I'll have Julie do
We'll do
this.
17, 20.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I'd like to call this work session to order. And if the council members could turn to page 28, and we will start out with fiscal matter 10. If I could call Mr. Steve Walsh, Director, Department of Public Works. Again, page 28, fiscal matter 10. I see you've got a pinch hitter in Public Works today. Good to see you. Page 28, fiscal matter 10. And good afternoon.
Yep, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kiefer. Good to see you subbing for Mr. Walsh today.
I think I'm welcome. Thank you. The administration is requesting an addendum to a contract with Whitman Record and Associates for continued on-call sanitary sewer pipeline design services for various projects throughout the county. The proposed addendum increases the maximum compensation of the contract by $4 million, from $4 million to $8 million for the entire approximate 8-year term, including renewal periods. The addendum also increases the reimbursement rate for indirect costs from 110% to 112.39%. The contract commenced March 18th, 2013.
Thank you, Mr. Kiefer. Are there any questions or comments from the council on fiscal matter 10? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming in. All righty, if we could turn to page 4, we'll do fiscal matter 1, page 4, and that's with Mr. Michael Field.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The administration is just asking the council to approve the contract to retain Elaine Katz as the Executive Director of the Baltimore County Ethics Commission. Ms. Katz has been the Executive Director of the Ethics Commission for about 13 years now. We've been bringing the contract forward for the last few years. Her rate of compensation is $30,000, and it hasn't gone up in probably 4 or 5 years.
Questions or comments from the council? All right, seeing none, let's move right along. How about page 66? We'll call up Amy Grassi Hicks from Real Estate Compliance. Page 66, that's fiscal matter 21. And good afternoon, Ms. Grassi. Please watch your step.
I needed 2 warnings to make it up here. The administration is requesting the council's approval of a contract for $47,212 related to the replacement of a bridge over the railroad at Moores Lane. It's bridge number 143. There's more than one bridge on Moores Lane, but this is part of the improvements at Campbell Boulevard. And throughout that entire area, the roadway improvements to enhance access and eliminate some of the conflicts between grade crossings and the railroad. This is the first of 8 items that will likely be coming before the council for this project. This particular one is .133 acres of highway widening area and a couple of small temporary easements. It will be at the Warwick property, which is right on Moores Lane.
Questions, Councilwoman Bevins?
Chair. First, Ms. Grassi, can you see the excitement in my face?
I can.
I'm very excited. This is long overdue. Fingers crossed on the next 7 properties. But this is essential for the traffic flowing between Philadelphia Road and Route 40. So thank you so much for your hard work on this.
Any other questions or comments? All righty, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, let's turn to page 69, call it Veronica Cohen, Office Communications, miscellaneous business item number 1. And good afternoon, Ms. Cohen. And page 69.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. We're requesting approval of 45 arts and sciences grants totaling $3,451,700 to nonprofit cultural organizations that serve Baltimore County residents. These funds have been approved in the fiscal 18 operating budget. Last year, Baltimore County residents visited organizations that we fund more than 687,000 times to see a museum exhibit, enjoy a play or concert, or participate in engaging history and science programs. We're particularly proud of the extensive family and children's educational programming that these organizations provide to county youth. These arts and sciences organizations provide jobs, support the economy, and educate people of all ages. As important, they make a valuable contribution to the quality of life that makes us all proud to live here. County funding will expand access to the arts, sciences, and humanities and enrich the lives of Baltimore County residents. The members of the Arts and Sciences Commission and our arts and cultural community join me in thanking the council for its support of these grants for next fiscal year.
And are there any questions or comments for Ms. Cohen on miscellaneous business item number 1? Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Okay. All right, next I'd like to call up Ms. Joanne Williams, Director of Department of Aging, and if the council could turn to page 32, fiscal matter 11, and then fiscal matter 12 after 11. So page 32 and page 35.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the County Council. The administration is requesting approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Associated Catholic Charities to provide the coordination and service of on-site meals for eligible senior citizens 60 years of age and older, spouses of any age, and disabled persons of any age at Catholic Charities Senior Housing at Trinity House in Towson. The MOU commences upon council approval, continues through December the 31st, 2017, and will automatically renew for 20 additional one-year periods. The MOU is a service-for-service agreement through which the contractor does not receive compensation.
Councilman Marks?
Yes, just very supportive of this and thank the administration for its assistance with this program.
Thank you, Mr. Council.
Any questions or comments from other councilmen? Councilman Jones?
Yes, I guess I want to thank you very much for your service, and I think this is a very worthwhile program. I guess I had one particular question in terms of funding. I believe this was a 5-year contract that went into effect back in 2012, and it was appropriated for somewhere in the neighborhood of $720,000. But I guess the question would be, just to make sure we're doing everything we can, why is the contracts averaging less than $250,000 a year? That's 12.
Yes.
Oh, we didn't get to 12 yet? Okay.
That's the question.
That's the next. Okay,
So why don't we just roll right into that, fiscal matter 12?
certainly,
And then if you could incorporate the,
certainly. Okay, the administration is requesting approval of 26 contracts to provide gap-filling services. For example, fuel delivery, optical services, emergency response services, and pharmaceutical services to frail, ill, or disabled elderly Baltimore County residents who meet the eligibility criteria for assistance. The contracts commence July 1st, 2017, continue for 1 year, and may be renewed for 4 additional one-year periods. The contracts do not specify a maximum compensation for the initial one-year term or for the entire five-year term, including the renewal periods. Compensation may not exceed the amount appropriated for these services during the entire contract. Estimated compensation for all contractors combined totals $1,185,291 for the initial one-year term and $5,926,455 for the entire five-year term. These contracts before you today represent the pharmaceutical services, emergency responses, optical services. It does not include all of the contracts with other vendors in other categories such as dental, home health care, which represent the remainder of the expenditures, which total the $1,185,000. So it's not that we're underspending, it's just that this is one particular category of vendors that we're asking for approval for tonight, this
Okay.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments on this issue? All right. Councilwoman
Ms.
Almond?
Williams, do you have
Yes.
the auditor's question for fiscal matter 12?
I believe so, yes. With regard to that question?
That was Councilman Jones.
Yes. The auditor's question is exactly what Councilman stated. Besides the contracts which are currently up for approval, there are other categories of services for clients, such as home health care, dental, hearing, utility assistance, eviction remediation, and respite care. Expenses for these other services were $473,640 in 2015, $692,000 in 2016, and close to $500,000 for year-to-date in 2017. So we are on track to expend the amount appropriated in the original
Thank you for
contract.
clearing that up. And could I
Certainly.
ask you one more question
Certainly.
about fiscal matter 11? We currently have 15 nutrition sites in Baltimore County. At some point, could you let us know where they're located?
Certainly. They're in addition to the 20 senior
Right.
centers.
If you could let us know where they're located, that would be
Certainly.
helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments for Ms. Williams? All right, thank you. Thank you for coming in today. All right, if we could call up our Director of Office of Budget and Finance, Mr. Keith Dorsey, and if the council could turn to page 8, we will do fiscal matter 2, which is budget appropriation transfer 17-04. Page 8. Good afternoon, Mr. Dorsey.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the County Council. I'm here to present for you the recommendation for approval of budget appropriation transfers, several of them, actually 7 in total. This one, budget appropriation, budget transfer number 2, which is fiscal matter number 2, BAT 1704, is with the Baltimore County Public Schools. It's an internal transfer of funds totaling $9.4 million. It includes funding for their Program 02, the mid-level administration, where what they're trying to do is to reorganize the funds that go for mid-level positions for their community superintendent offices. In June of last year, they needed to reorganize to align up properly with what is MSD requirements, putting in 4 community superintendent offices that consist of 2 executive directors and a director. Those funds were previously appropriated in program 3501, their general administrative program, and so one part of the bat is to move monies to their mid-level administration in accordance to what MSDE defines as administration versus mid-level administration. They also are requesting a transfer of funds, $2.75 million. This is a normal one in terms of the end of the year BAT reallocation. Over at the school system, for the better part of the last 20 years, they've had site-based budgeting where principals get to a pot of money and they get to align it, but that for whatever their specific needs are. Sometimes that realignment crosses program lines, and so what this $2.75 million is to bring those expenditures back in line with the MSDE required categories. They're also asking for $1.9 million to be transferred for the special education. That's to cover for funds for non-public placements. We've had both about a 10% increase in the number of enrollment of students, as well as additional costs, and that's what that request is. There is a request for $1.5 million to be put to their student transportation that allows them to pay for an increase in the use of contract buses. Previously, they were around 91 contract buses. They're up to 130. What they're trying to do is to focus their use of contract internal staff to focus on special education needs students, and then use those contractors for the regular routes. The issue at hand was that they are under, right now the state guidelines is that they have to transport students within an hour and a half one way, and in order to bring down that amount of time that's being used for students, they've added additional positions in terms of contractual dollars in order to pick up more of their regular routes, and as I said, allow them to focus their special ed needs with their existing staff. There is a request also for $1.8 million to be reallocated for additional improvements for Rosedale Center that we had to do in order to get ready for opening Victory Villa, and then also in terms of some limited remodeling there at the Catonsville Elementary School. Fundings for those different transfers come from the categories that I sort of mentioned. There's one large category in terms of instructional salaries where they are able to bring in some savings that they recognize by the salary differential from the number from teachers who've left and the cost of their replacements. They were able to gain some savings there, as well as they received a lot of savings, about $2 million worth in the operational plant just from energy efficiencies that's come about as we have done a good job of replacing some of the older schools, and it's costing less in terms of running those schools, and we also had a very good winter. So they had savings there in terms of that category, as well as others.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. One quick question on the former Catonsville Elementary School building. I see we're putting about $1 million investing into like the e-learning program, operations and maintenance, satellite facilities, continuity of operations office, IT training facility, child find center, and a warehouse space. Is there perhaps somebody from BCPS can just give me an update later on more of the details on the whole professional development focus I think that BCPS has in that building?
Yes, I'll contact them and let them do that for you. But as you raise it, as I mentioned earlier, it's a limited renovation. It's not fixing ADA required elements for the public. It's It's dealing a lot with the warehouse and those few offices, so it's very limited in terms of the scope of what's
Right, yes,
being
it's-
done at the Catonsville building.
Right. I look forward to the update on what's happening there. Councilman Ketch?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the $1.9 million in regard to non-public placements, are they out-of-state placements, or are they within Baltimore County private placements? And do you know how many students this involves?
I don't have a current number on it. I understand it was a 10% increase. These are for students who, in terms of the out-of-county placements, non-public placements, for many of them, the resources here in Baltimore County are not available for being able to meet their particular educational need, and so we have to locate other locations that some of them are overnight stays and some are short-term, but it is for those students who have a special need that cannot be met within our own resources here.
Will you please contact the school system and ask them for more of an explanation of this? So that, because I know that the school system in the past has attempted to reduce the costs involved in sending students to non-public
Okay, I'll do that.
facilities.
Yes.
That would be good.
Yes,
And
they
you said-
continue to do it. It's just that, as I said, the costs have arisen,
Right.
and they've also had an enrollment increase.
Yeah,
And
and-
I'll give you get them to give you the specific numbers of how many students have been involved in the past and currently what they're experiencing, and then perhaps some insight in terms of why they're still taking the same efforts to try to keep the cost down by keeping students within regular facilities, but the costs have gone up, and I'll get them to give you some of that information.
So it's a 10% increase in the number of students that need these services?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments from the council on this? All right, let's turn to page 10. We'll do fiscal matter 3.
Fiscal matter 3 is back for $175,000 to the Department of Corrections. When we came to you earlier this year for the supplement, at that time when we initiated the process, we didn't have a full grasp of the full cost of what we were facing in terms of overtime. But by the time we got to the council, we had a sense that it was going to be more, but we needed more time to be able to fine-tune the number. We're coming back to you now and asking for an additional $175,000 to be transferred to the Department of Corrections. We're taking it from the Reserve for Contingency. As we mentioned earlier, this is in terms of trying to accelerate the process of filling some positions, but it's also in terms of additional details that have been added that we're trying to meet in terms of correctional officers, like medical runs and such.
Question or comments from the council? All right, let's do page 12, fiscal matter 4.
Fiscal matter 4 pertains to the Department of Permits, Approvals, and Inspections. Again, this is a transfer of funds from the Reserve for Contingency. It's $50,000. The money is going to the General Administration Program. The real cause for the need is that originally the projection of turnover for the department was $230,000, and they've fallen way short in terms of the amount of turnover they're experiencing. So they're going to need, while they're going to make some adjustments internally to cover the costs, they're going to need an infusion of $50,000 to cover that shortfall.
Question or comments? All right, let's go to page 14, fiscal matter 5.
Okay. Fiscal matter 5 is a budget appropriation transfer for the Office of Information Technology. The funds are going to be $15,000 for their business operations program, as well as about $65,000 in their infrastructure program, 6903. Both of those amounts are covering for overtime expenditures. The balance of funds in program 6903, the infrastructure program, approximately $130. It's to help cover their cost. We participated in a bid that was being solicited by the Baltimore County Public Schools for someone to handle their E-rate and broadband fiber. We competed with others, and we won the bid in terms of that, where we're going to be providing that service to Baltimore County Public Schools. What it will also mean is that we're going to get revenues for that. This first year out, there are 111 sites that we're going to be doing. We're going to get about 40% coverage in terms of that. That's going to generate $428,000 for Baltimore County general government. And then when it's fully fitted out, they're going to be at 160 sites, and it will be raising about $618,000 a year. So while there is an expenditure here for what we did, we had to get engineers to come in and help us with the bid. That $130,000, roughly, 130,000 was to cover those costs for the helping us with the bid that was needed in order to respond to the solicitation from Baltimore County Public Schools. There's also $90,000 that's in there for a contract for electrical mechanic assistance in their electronic shop. Right now, when the county previously had a level of replacement of vehicles, cars and the like, we had a certain level of staffing. We have made an effort to elongate the life of our vehicles, which enabled in the past OIT to reduce the number of staffing that were there at electronic services. Well, we're stepping back up now that we are at the point of having to go back in and make more purchases. So this year, OIT had to use the services of two electronic assistants contractually to pay for that coverage. And in doing so, we incurred the additional cost. However, next year, we've added not as contractual, but they actually are appearing in the budget as positions. So, but to cover the balance of this year, we had to pay for the contractual costs. And as I said, as we're now beefing back up our replacement of vehicles.
Questions or comments? Councilwoman Allman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Dorsey, overtime seems to be a common denominator in some of these requests. Do you anticipate that to continue as we move forward into this fiscal year?
Not as much. For instance, in terms of corrections, what we're doing, we're taking the step of bringing back some, part-time basis, some previous retired correctional people. That will help us in terms of some of that. Some of the work that we mentioned, I just mentioned for OIT, in terms of those costs, it was in terms of right now the county has been looking at how it can operate more efficiently, and we've had some staff involved in terms of our performance evaluation process that caused some of that overtime cost. And then in terms of in their main infrastructure program, that there was a result of some staff vacancies, and so they're making the effort now to fill those vacancies, and as that goes away, so will that overtime cost.
Thank you.
Councilman Catch?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, with the rec and parks, are they vacancies that have provided the funds that are being transferred?
No, well, in terms of it was there were some on their monthly payroll. They're not exactly slotted positions, but it's amount of work that's being done. Well, they experienced this year, because of bad weather at times and many programs being canceled, as well as just the some turnover in terms of not as much of a need being there. We experienced a reduction in terms of amount of monthly payroll people. It was to some extent, we may have overstaffed, overfunded a little bit in that category. It's been adjusted in the FY18 budget to come back to what should be the appropriate level of staffing. But as I said, it was two things. There was some reduction in that we did not have as much of a need for monthly payroll. And then two, they experienced some savings where programs had to get canceled because of weather-related activities.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, let's turn to page 7, fiscal matter 6.
Fiscal matter 6 is a transfer for the sheriff's office. It's $190,000. This covers the county being able to fund a settlement where some back pay related to standby pay with the deputy sheriffs and deputy sheriff first class that goes back over a couple of years. And so the settlement was made, and we made the payment in this fiscal year. And so this is a supplement, to, a budget appropriation transfer to cover that cost, which was about $183,000.
Any questions or comments from the council? All right, good. Go to the next one, Mr. Dorsey.
Which is number 9, I believe.
Let's see.
That's correct?
Fiscal matter 8?
8.
Page 22.
Okay, fiscal matter 8.
Page 22.
Okay, you want to do the contracts first, or we'll stay with the bats?
Why don't we just do this? We'll just go right in order, and then we'll come back
Okay.
to the bats.
Okay. Fiscal matter 8 is for 2 contracts for serving, process serving services for Baltimore County. One contract is with Monumental Process Servers, the other is with Legal Papers. The contracts are for 1 year with 4 one-year renewals and the possibility of a 120-day extension or at the end of any one of those periods. The total for that potentially 5-year, 4-month period is not to exceed $600,000. Again, this is for serving. My unit, in terms of parking, has many of these served where they're going out and delivering the services to anyone who's outside in some of Maryland's counties, in Baltimore City, in the outside of the state, within 25 miles of our border in Washington, D.C. So they're used in various ways. We use them in terms of parking. There's also our property taxpayer unit that uses those services, as well as law office and maybe some other agencies within Baltimore County.
Questions or comments? Okay, let's go back to, we'll do page 24, fiscal matter 9,
Okay.
BAT 17-07.
Okay. Fiscal matter 9 is a budget appropriation transfer for the Department of Public Works, where we're requesting approval for a transfer of total of $850,000, $200,000 to the equipment maintenance area, where we've had some aging county equipment as well as fire department apparatus that's experienced a lot more repairs than normal, and so we're incurring those kinds of expenses right now. We anticipate that, as we are having some more, particularly fire apparatus being delivered shortly, as well as dump trucks, that this cost will go down as we don't have as much in terms of maintenance costs. There's also $650,000 for the refuge disposal program, in which case what happened was we appropriated FY17 budget. We assumed the 122,000 tons to be transferred from Harford County. We have an arrangement with them where they cover the cost for having us take in their trash, as well as a separate hosting fee. Well, we made the assumption that we would get 122,000 tons this fiscal year, and it's looking like it will be 134,000 tons. So the cost of those additional 12,000 tons is showing here on the appropriation side, but we'll get more than that amount back in terms of the additional revenues covering from Harford County.
Questions or comments from the council? All righty, and I think the last piece of business for you, Mr. Dorsey, is on page 6, fiscal matter 22, and that's budget appropriation transfer 17-12.
Right. This is a transfer for the Office of Law. Simply put the assumption with FY17 budget that they would incur about $41,000 in turnover. They haven't experienced any turnover, and so therefore there's this request for the transfer of funds to help cover the cost for the overrun there.
Questions or comments from Mr. Dorsey? I mean, the only thing I'd say is all these budget appropriation transfers, we're all still we're still under the guidelines, spending affordability guidelines.
Yes, in total, we transferred out $541,000 out of the contingency reserve. That is the only transfer that would affect the spending affordability guideline, and we were well over $3 million below, so that's still not a problem.
Thank you. Thank you for your work, Mr. Dorsey. Appreciate it. All righty. Now, next, we could call up our Director, Department of Planning, Ms. Andrea Van Arsdale. And if the County Council could turn to page 19, and we'll do fiscal matter 7 first. It's on page 19. And then I think you have 3 more after this, too, Ms. Van Arsdale. We'll do those as well.
Oh, good.
Good afternoon.
All right, the first fiscal matter is the administration is requesting approval of the contract with Lippman, Frizzell, and Mitchell to perform a study of the housing conditions in the Turner Station community. The consultants will use State Department of Assessments and Taxation information, field surveys, and other sources to document housing conditions in the neighborhood. Using this information, the consultant will work with the Department of Planning and, more importantly, the community to develop strategies to foster more home ownership and rehabilitation of homes in disrepair. The contract commenced March 1st of this year and continues through July 31st and will not exceed $25,000. If approved, the contract will continue through the completion of the housing survey and delivery of the approved final report to the county. Compensation will not exceed $49,500 for the entire term of the agreement.
Councilman Crandall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Van Arsdale, thank you and the administration for not just the consideration of this contract, but for the significant amount of work and effort that has gone into helping to revitalize the Turner Station community. On a broader scale, I would hope that one of the results of this study is that we make a determination or figure out how to better handle our vacant houses throughout Baltimore County, both vacant residential structures and commercial structures. It's become quite an issue, not only in the Turner Station community, but I think throughout Baltimore County and probably in each one of our districts. So I'm hoping that through this study we get to learn a lot and maybe look at how we might change some of the practices to fix this vacant structure problem.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from Ms. Van Arsdale? All righty. Okay, then let's turn to page 72, miscellaneous business item 2, resolution 54-17, page 72.
The Maryland General Assembly passed the Sustainable Growth and Agricultural Preservation Act of 2012. This law established a system of growth tiers through the state, which are required to be incorporated into the comprehensive plans of local jurisdictions. Baltimore County developed its growth tier and associated growth tier maps, which were administratively adopted in December 2012. All property located within Baltimore County now has a growth tier status, and you have that in your attached map. The Baltimore County growth tiers do not alter zoning classifications or permitted land uses, but instead regulate the level of residential use served by public sewage disposal facilities and individual residential on-site septic disposal systems through the development review process.
Questions or comments for Ms. Van Arsdale? Okay, let's go to page 74, miscellaneous business 3, resolution 55-17.
The administration requests approval of Resolution 5517, which adopts the Land Preservation, Parks, and Recreation Plan as part of the Baltimore County Master Plan. The LPPRP serves as a guide for meeting the recreation, park, and open space needs of the citizens of Baltimore County and is required to be updated every 5 years. The plan update is based on the state's guidelines and was prepared by the Department of Recreation and Parks, the Department of Planning, and the Department of Environmental Protection and Sustainability. Adoption by the Baltimore County Planning Board and County Council is required to approve the plan update as an amendment to the master plan. The Planning Board voted unanimously to approve the plan update on April 20th, 2017. The state's approval of the plan update will allow Baltimore County to comply with Maryland Program Open Space requirements for maintaining funding eligibility. The county must formally adopt its plan to meet the state's POS requirements. The funding is used for parkland acquisition as well as park and recreational site development, enhancement, and capital rehabilitation.
Any questions or comments? All right, how about page 75, miscellaneous business 4, resolution 56-17?
The administration requests approval of Resolution 5617 to approve and prioritize 5 FY18 Rural Legacy Area applications submitted to the Maryland Rural Legacy Program. The sponsors of the applications include the Land Preservation Trust for the Piney Run Rural Legacy Area, Baltimore County for the coastal area, Gunpowder Valley Conservancy for the Gunpowder area, and the Long Green Land Trust, this is very small font, for the Long Green area, and the Manor Conservancy for the Manor area. The Department of Planning requests approval of all 5 applications in the following priority order: the Piney Run Watershed Rural Legacy Area, the Manor Rural Legacy Area, and there was a tie for third, being the Baltimore County Coastal Rural Legacy Area and the Gunpowder Valley Rural Legacy Area, followed by the Long Green Land Trust Rural Legacy Area. There are many factors to be considered in the priority ranking, including the success of each organization toward their preservation goal, the ability to successfully complete easement projects, threat of development, environmental factors with emphasis on water quality, forest and farmland protection, and public benefits of past preservation efforts such as parks, trails, and public activities in the area by the sponsor. The rankings will be forwarded to the State Rural Legacy Advisory Committee, which reviews applications and makes recommendation to the Rural Legacy Board, comprised of the secretaries from the Department of Natural Resources, the Department of Planning, and the Department of Agriculture. The Rural Legacy Board will determine the funding levels subject to the approval of the State Board of Public Works.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Van Arsdale? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Van Arsdale, Mr. Mayhew, and of course, Mr. Lippincott. Thank you guys for your work. Thank you. All right, and just so everybody knows, I know a lot of you are here for Bill 32-17. We have 3 more items, and then we'll dive into that as our last item. So why don't we call up Dr. Gregor Branch, Director of Department of Health and Human Services, and we could start on page 39 for the council, and this will be fiscal matter 13. And good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman Quirk, and good afternoon to the council. Fiscal matter 13, the administration is requesting approval of a contract with Community Residents Incorporation, and this is to provide mental health case management services to qualified adults with serious and persistent mental health disorders. This case management services includes linkage to community services, counseling services, mental health services, educational and social services.
Questions or comments from the council on fiscal matter 13? All right, let's go to page 42, fiscal matter 14.
Fiscal matter 14 is actually 2 contracts, and the administration is requesting approval for these 2 contracts with Maryland Treatment Center doing business as Mount Manor and the Turk House. And these contracts will provide adult-level medical monitored intensive inpatient substance abuse and disorder treatment and detoxification services to uninsured and underinsured residents.
Questions or comments from the council? Councilwoman Ahmed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Branch, how are you?
Hi.
Good. Can you tell me how many drug treatment centers we have in Baltimore County?
Okay, so when we look at the treatment centers, I just want to be very clear on this. When I have a person who has a drug treatment issue, I do not limit that person to the drug treatment services that we have only in one area. So we use the entire state, right? So at this point now, we've got approximately 3 public places that I'm aware of, and there's a whole lot of private treatment places in Baltimore County.
Right.
But just to be very clear, we use the entire state. Whoever has a bed, whoever has a slot at that given time is where that person goes.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Councilman Katz?
Yeah, very quickly, I see that there's, the fiscal note is 0. Will we then, when the state of Maryland, the federal government give us their grants, in essence, we will be then, as a council, accepting that money? Is that?
Okay. So let me explain how this works out. What has happened now is, historically, the state has given us grant money to be able to deal with the uninsured and the underinsured.
Right.
What has happened is, for July 2017, the state has changed the way they're going to actually do the payment. All of their payments will go through Medicaid. And the reason why that's important is because the state can get reimbursed federally for all of those Medicaid dollars. So in essence, when a person now who is uninsured or underinsured goes in for treatment, that particular provider will bill Medicaid for those people. That's what's going to happen. Now, because of the opioid epidemic, as a health officer for our jurisdiction, I want to be prepared in the event that that change does not work as effectively as planned. I need to be ready to put my folk into some type of treatment. And if they were to give me some grant funding, then we would be ready immediately to do that.
Any other questions or comments? All right, why don't we turn to page 46, Fiscal Matter 15.
Fiscal Matter 15, the administration is requesting a contract with Heart-to-Heart Ambulance Services, and this is provide Medicaid recipients transportation services to and from non-emergent medically necessary services to doctor's office, medical facilities, etc.
Questions or comments? All right, why don't we do page 50, Fiscal Matter 16.
Fiscal Matter 16, the administration is requesting approval for a contract with Healthcare Access Maryland Incorporated. And this will provide care coordination, case management services to county residents who are adults who participate in publicly funded substance abuse residential treatment programs. And those care coordinated services includes identifying the health care recovery support needs, initiating referrals and linkages to services such as treatment, health care, employment, legal services, peer support, and social services.
Questions or comments? Why don't we do page 53, Fiscal Matter 17.
Fiscal Matter 17, the administration is requesting approval of an amendment to 2 contracts with the Center for Progressive Learning and Friends Research Institute. And this is going to be to continue to provide outpatient substance abuse or substance use disorder treatment services, including buprenorphine services to the uninsured county residents.
Councilman Marks?
So based on the grant funding that was appropriated for fiscal year 2018, what is the contract's compensation level for fiscal year 2018?
This is one of the same type of a program in which the provider is going to bill directly to Medicaid.
Okay.
So in essence, there's no money coming through us unless they get overwhelmed and the state needs us to have some grants, and they'll just give us the grants, and then we'll be able to pay.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions, comments? How about page 55, Fiscal Matter 18.
Fiscal Matter 18, the administration is requesting approval to amend the contract for the integrated cellular and molecular diagnostics, and it's basically the Chesapeake Laboratory Services, and this is to continue to provide the clinical laboratory testing for our women's health program and our family planning programs.
Question or comments? All right, how about page 58, Fiscal Matter 19?
Fiscal Matter 19, the administration is requesting approval to the contract with Hope Health Systems, and this is to provide mental health case management and services to children and youth. Before we talked about adults, this is children and youth with serious and persistent mental health disorders.
Question or comments? All right, how about our last fiscal matter, page 62, Fiscal Matter 20?
And this is also the administration is requesting approval for a contract with the Maryland Treatment Center doing business Mountain Manor. And this is to provide medically monitored intensive substance abuse services now to the children and adolescents as opposed to the adults.
Questions or comments? Councilman Jones?
Let me just take this opportunity. I know we don't say it enough, Dr. Branch, but let me just take this opportunity to thank you for your service. You are a very dedicated and conscientious person who works very hard to maintain the health and welfare of our citizens. So thank you for all you do.
Well, you're welcome, and thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Everybody good? Well, thank you, Dr. Branch. Appreciate it. Okay, so we got two more items before we get to Bill 32-17. So why don't we, Councilman Marks on Bill 31-17, and for the council members, page 1, Bill 31-17.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the ROA zone, a new building or part of a building to be used as a dwelling must be occupied as a residential use for 5 years before submitting a plan for conversion to a Class A office building. Bill 31-17 provides that a new building located in the East Towson Community Conservation Area, and only that area, may submit plans and be used as a Class A office building at the time of its completion. I attended the meeting of the Northeast Towson Improvement Association where this was discussed. It's my understanding there will be a representative here today, and it's my understanding also that there is no objection.
Are there any questions or comments from the council for Councilman Marks? Everybody good? And we do have 3 speakers, and our first speaker is Timothy Thompson, followed by Michael Miller, followed by Michael Ventura. And Mr. Thompson, if you had 2 minutes up at the podium, if you'd like to present.
Distinguished council, thank you very much. I'll be very brief. The south side of East Pennsylvania Avenue between Jefferson and Fairmount is, I believe, the only ROA zone in the East Towson community area. As the current owner of the vacant land at 308 East Pennsylvania Avenue, we approached the Northeast Towson Communities Improvement Association, Ms. Adelaide Bentley and Mr. Mike Miller, who Mr. Miller is here this evening, to determine what they would prefer to be built on said lot. The community's consensus was to maintain the current typical use along that ROA zone, which contains Class A office professional services with tenant/owner residential occupancy. The community was vehemently opposed to residential use only for the stated 5 years as it was current in the zoning, since that could lead to the potential introduction of Towson University students into the community, which they were trying to oppose.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, Michael Miller, and then if Mr. Michael Ventura wants to come up to the bench as well. And good afternoon, Mr. Miller. You have about up to 2 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Miller. I'm the secretary for the Northeast Towson Improvement Association. Unfortunately, I'm the only one here from the association. Our president, Mrs. Bentley, was to be here, and I wish to be here together. But Mr. Thompson did bring his projects and his ideas before the community, and they were approved as they stand right now. We do wish to continue to have such structures to blend in with the community structures and to avoid any type of intrusion from Towson State University students. The community has been vastly affected by that, as other communities have been throughout the area. And we appreciate Mr. Thompson coming before our community and to let him know how sincere he wants to be involved in our community and being part of it and seeking our consensus.
Great. Thank you very much. And then our last speaker on Bill 31-17, Mr. Michael Ventura. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Council. I'm Michael Ventura, 306 East Pennsylvania Avenue. I reside there and I operate an independent insurance agency and a real estate company. I'm here to support this piece of legislation. I've lived in the neighborhood 26 years. I am a member of the Northeast Towson Improvement Association, and I do believe this will continue the integrity and the progress that this historic neighborhood has made. So we would appreciate a favorable review. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ventura. Appreciate you coming out. Any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, now if we could turn to page 78, we'll do Resolution 59-17. Councilman Crandall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think my colleagues on the council will recall that we endorsed the release of some state money to the Dundalk Renaissance Corporation not too long ago, and this is their ramping up for their next 2-year grant period. So this is more procedural in nature, that what we're doing as a council is saying that we think that this group is a legitimate group. They are who they say they are, and they do what they say that they are supposed to do with Regional Neighborhood Initiative grant money. So I would appreciate my colleagues' support on this.
Any questions or comments for Councilman Crandall? Okay. That will do Bill 32-17. If the council members could turn to page 2. Councilman Crandall, do you want to start?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to start off by saying that, you know, the level of emotion and rhetoric that surrounds this bill, I find it unproductive, and I find it to be really taking away from what is, in my belief, a very simple step for the Baltimore County Department of Corrections to take. So the 287G program has been in existence in various forms since 1996. What the bill would do would be to train and enable Baltimore County Department of Corrections officers to work in partnership with Immigration and Customs Enforcement officers. Currently, Baltimore County Corrections officers do assess the immigration status of prisoners brought into the detention center, but not in any sort of formal way, and Immigrations and Customs Enforcement is either not notified or notified late. So ICE officials estimate that we are probably missing over 80% of illegal aliens who have committed or have allegedly committed crimes in Baltimore County. We're missing over 80% of those in not working inside of the 287G program. I think this is a very simple way to codify our involvement with Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, and it is to me, it's a matter of public safety. I think it's also important to recognize what the program is not. The program is not about Baltimore County Police pulling people over based on racial profiling or anything like that. In fact, the bill as it stands does not ask the Baltimore County Police Department to do anything. What the bill does is says that a Department of Corrections officer, upon intake of a prisoner, they already conduct an interview with that prisoner, and at the outset they would be asking 2 very simple questions. So this doesn't add to the overtime, this doesn't add to anything that their Department of Corrections officers aren't already doing, and then notifying ICE in a timely way so that when ICE wants to talk to someone that they think are here illegally and put them into the due process of immigration law, that ICE has an opportunity to go and safely arrest or talk to that individual. Currently, because ICE is notified late or not notified at all, or has to come to the Baltimore County Department of Corrections facility, oftentimes they have to encounter that individual in the lobby or out in public. And we've heard anecdotes from ICE officers that they've actually had to chase people down York Road because there is no safe and reasonable way and secure way because we don't participate in the program. So again, I know it's a heated, emotional sort of issue. However, to me, this is in the best public interest and in the interest of public safety.
All right, before we get into our 55 public speakers, I want to see if any of the council members have comments. Councilman Jones?
Yes, I guess I have a question for my colleague who introduced the bill. I understand everything you said, and I'm just wondering to myself, when I think about all the people that go to the detention center, for example, a person with a DWI may be, say, convicted and sent to the detention center for 30 days. Should that person be deported if they are an undocumented immigrant?
This isn't necessarily, thank you for your question, Councilman, this is not necessarily about deportation. This is about Immigration and Customs Enforcement being notified of an individual that has allegedly or has committed a crime in Baltimore County. So ICE doesn't come in and just arrest someone and deport them. They enable an immigrant here illegally to take part in the due process of law. So oftentimes people that are here illegally, they actually, if they go through this process, they can end up with what is called a U visa or a green card. It's not necessarily about deportation.
But that's what ICE normally does, correct?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. It's about bringing an illegal immigrant into the due process of current immigration law.
Okay, so if a person gets arrested for, say, insurance violation, and they get a 30-day stint at the county detention center, should that person be deported if they are a undocumented immigrant?
I'll say again, this is not about deportation.
No,
and if you have an insurance violation,
question.
you're likely not ending up in the Baltimore County Detention Center. You would get a traffic citation.
Okay. So if a person thought that, here's another question for you. If a person thought, and, you know, everybody don't have all the facts, I hear what you're saying, but if a person thought, since you talked about public safety, that if they ended up in the detention center, that they could possibly be deported, and they are the sole breadwinner for their family, do you think it's a chance that that person would not stop when the police tried to pull them over if they had, say, suspended license or suspended tags or any of those? Do you think that there's a possibility that that person would not stop for the police? And then to follow up, if they didn't stop for the police and it ended up in some chase, do you think the rest of the public would then be in danger?
I think you're throwing a lot of what-ifs in there, Councilman.
Okay. But, I mean, people think about these things. I mean, some people are very concerned when they have a family to take care of. And then I guess, you know, the other part would be, you know, what happens to the family if the person is deported? Because I don't think ICE shows up and give people ice creams. I think that, I think they show up for one particular, you know, if you're a nail, if you're a hammer, the whole world's a nail. And ICE, I don't think that they are, you know, a social service organization. I think they show up to deport people. And I think
that that's an inaccuracy that you've repeated 3 times now.
Okay.
It's not about deportation. This is about the due process of law, and I'm not sure when we got to the point in our country when we say it's okay to break the law.
Okay, one more question.
Councilman Jones, then Councilwoman Bevins after Councilman Jones.
All right, that's my last question for my sponsors of the bill. If you had a magic wand and you had all the power in the world, would you deport every undocumented immigrant in this country?
That's beyond our purview on this council, sir.
Oh, no, I know, I guess that's a hypothetical.
Rhetorical question?
Yeah. I'm just wondering where we're going.
You have a lot of hypotheticals today, sir.
Okay. Why don't we, Councilwoman, if I could have order while we're doing this, or we're going to be here a lot longer. Councilwoman Bevins?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Fields, would you take just a moment, since we have a very large audience here today, and thank you to everyone that came out, whether you are in support of this or oppose it. Would you just take a minute first to say who you are and what you do for the county?
I'm the county attorney, Mike Field.
So you know the law? You understand the law?
I try to.
Okay, all righty. So my question to you, because I've heard from a lot of constituents in my district, and they have a lot of questions because they're not really clear about this bill, and I don't consider that rhetoric when people ask questions or don't quite understand something. So I'm asking you, do you consider us a sanctuary jurisdiction?
Mrs. Bevins, Baltimore County is not a sanctuary jurisdiction. The first definition of sanctuary jurisdiction that came from the federal government that I'm aware of was in the executive order that President Trump issued on January 25th of this year, where they wrote that they basically defined a sanctuary jurisdiction as one that refuses to comply with Title 8, Section 1373 of the United States Code. That is a very simple section that effectively provides that a local government entity or official may not prohibit or in any way restrict any government entity or official from sending to or receiving from the Immigration and Naturalization Service information regarding the citizenship or immigration status, lawful or unlawful, of any individual. I was a little bit surprised by some of the comments that were made earlier. One of the things that we do, that the jail does, is every day it sends a report to ICE on the status on where individuals were born.
I'm aware of that.
And so, I mean, the one that I have in front of me, I didn't print the whole thing out, but it's a 12-page document that's sent every day on the status of people who are foreign-born, with their name, their location. 9 times out of 10, it's BCDC, the charges that they're facing, where they were born. So ICE does get this information on a regular basis, daily, as far as I'm concerned.
Correct.
As far as I know. So just from the four squares of the executive order that President Trump issued, Baltimore County is not a sanctuary jurisdiction. I've never heard of anybody accusing the county of refusing to convey information to ICE or to receive it from ICE. There has been a little bit of confusion about the effect of this executive order, and it's actually led to litigation that frankly has gotten a little bit less press than the other litigation that you've been hearing about that occurred with all the nonsense, everything that happened at the airport and all that stuff. But there have been jurisdictions that have also sued the federal government for declaratory relief to get the courts to declare them as not sanctuary jurisdictions, because what they've been worried about from all the talk is that, notwithstanding the fact that the definition of sanctuary jurisdiction is very narrow, that the federal government might consider withholding federal money, and that's what this portion of the executive order was about, from jurisdictions that refuse to honor detainers or to comply with other provisions of federal law. And they were suing over that as well, and from what I can tell, doing fairly well in court. So one of the things that happened was that on May 22nd, Attorney General Sessions issued a notice clarifying the intent of the executive order, and he narrowed it in exactly the appropriate way. He wrote that Section 1373 provides in part that state and local jurisdictions, quote, may not prohibit or in any way restrict any government entity or official from sending to or receiving from the INS information regarding the citizenship or immigration status, lawful or unlawful, of any individual. Again, a practice that we undertake. And then he went on to say, in accordance with his duties as Attorney General, he's determined that that section of the executive order will be applied solely to federal grants administered by the Department of Justice or the Department of Homeland Security, and not to other sources of funding. In other words, the federal government, one of the things that was happening with all of the threats is we could arguably lose transportation funding for failing to comply with things. So what they've done is they have stated very narrowly what a sanctuary jurisdiction is, and Baltimore County is not a sanctuary jurisdiction, and also stated very narrowly, as required, frankly, by the 10th Amendment, what kind of money they could withhold if we failed to provide this information. So again, all this, we're not a sanctuary jurisdiction, even as the Trump administration chose to define it. And I'm really not familiar with any other definition of sanctuary jurisdiction. It certainly doesn't exist in federal law as far as I know. So the only definitions are here, and we do what the executive order requires, and we do what Attorney General Sessions.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I think there are a lot of people here today and a lot of people that have reached out to members on the council that were confused, already thinking we were a sanctuary county and to remain one and not to pass this legislation. Mr. Chair, I do have one more question,
Yes,
if you don't mind.
please.
So this is to you, Mr. Fields. So the Baltimore City Jail falls under the jurisdiction of the state of Maryland?
As far as I know, yes.
And that is the jurisdiction of Governor Hogan, a Republican governor?
Correct.
Do we participate in 287G in our city jail system?
I don't think we do. I've never
Okay.
heard of it. As far as I know, the only jurisdictions that are a part of 287G are, I think, Harford County and Frederick County, and the word is that Anne Arundel County is looking at it.
But Maryland actually has the jurisdiction, the governor has the jurisdiction to do 287G in our city jail system, and we currently don't have it.
I think so, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I will send the governor an email.
Yeah, I bet you will.
Councilwoman Almond?
You don't answer many.
Councilman Crandall, I believe that Baltimore County does its due diligence already, and in my opinion, with all due respect, I believe there's an underlying tone of fear and hatred that is going to cause so much mistrust and distrust in our communities that I have a really, really difficult time with the contents of this legislation.
Well, as always, Councilwoman, I hold you in high regard, and we happen to disagree on this. And one of the things that I would encourage my colleagues to do, and I'm happy to facilitate before the vote, is to discuss this with ICE officials or with the jurisdictions that have implemented this. And it actually gives me an opportunity to thank the ICE officials that we've worked with on this. I also want to thank County Executive Steve Shue in Anne Arundel County for talking to me about this, as well as Sheriff Gaylor and Sheriff Jenkins from Harford and Frederick counties. ICE is of the opinion that we are inefficient in how we're handling illegal immigrants in our detention center. As I said before, they believe that we are only enabling ICE to encounter less than 20% of illegal aliens that come through the detention center. We also are creating an unsafe situation because we don't participate in the program, an unsafe situation for ICE officers when they do want to make an arrest, they have to make it in public. And that's not a good thing. That prisoner transfer should be secure. I will also say, and your, Mr. Field, your comments were well taken. In terms of detainers, Baltimore County would not be required to detain anyone beyond their release date. In fact, Orange County, California, that is true, Councilwoman.
It's 48 hours.
It is not 48 hours. If you look at the agreement that Orange County, California has with ICE, Orange County said in their contract, in their agreement with ICE, that they would not hold anyone beyond their release date.
But we're in Baltimore County.
I understand that.
Maybe we can talk about what Baltimore County does, because it's 48 hours. Am I correct, Mr.
Well,
Fields?
no, I think there are different things. What happens right now, or until recently, when ICE issues a detainer currently, they generally ask for us to hold the person for 48 hours. They just can't get here usually within, at the time. But let me, because you've...
So under 287G, however, we would be notifying ICE well in advance so they can conduct their investigation and then be ready upon that individual's release date.
Admittedly, that's entirely possible. But one of the things that Attorney General Frosch wrote in the thing that he issued earlier in the month is it's still an open question. If we do hold the person beyond their date and time that they're supposed to leave, it's not entirely clear that we're covered under the 287G agreement.
It can be argued that 287G actually provides that liability insurance, so to speak. It takes
Well,
away that liability.
No, what it
However,
does is it provides the immunity, and actually what happens is the agreement that you sign provides that the Department of Justice, at its discretion, will offer a defense to the correctional officers who find themselves being sued, but it doesn't offer any indemnity, and they also can refuse to do that. The Department of Justice also won't defend the county. Typically in these suits, what happens is that we have officers named and the county named, and so the best we'll ever do is getting DOJ, if they agree to at their discretion, to provide the defense, but if we're found liable, it doesn't say in there that they're going to indemnify us.
Mr. Chairman?
One second.
Sure.
Mr. Field, do we give ICE the release date, when we're working with them in any type of daily
Yes,
updates?
that's part of, it's usually, I guess, a projected release date. We're supposed to try to give them that. Obviously, we don't always know because most people that we hold, or a lot of them we hold pretrial. So, we're giving them information on people that we have no idea what the outcome of their case is going to be. But I think that we do give them, they're usually aware of the, I don't see it here on the document that I have, but ICE is usually aware of the release date.
And I know Councilman Marks, Councilman Katch, and then come back to Councilman Crandall. Councilman Marks?
Thank you. A question for my colleague. And I've gotten a lot of information about how other jurisdictions do this. 2009 study by the Brookings Institution found that Prince William County, the cost was about $26 million over 5 years. Other counties that have implemented this. In your discussions with the other Maryland counties, have they given you any idea of the costs?
Thank you, Councilman. As I said, the program has been around since 1996 in various forms. There was a model that is no longer used now that I think is where you hear about some of these costs. The jurisdictions I've spoken with, Harford County, Frederick County especially, the costs are negligible. I think that Harford County had to reconfigure a room and buy a desk, but they didn't have to hire any additional people. The training is paid for by ICE. The equipment necessary in terms of the technology is paid for by ICE. So those two jurisdictions have reported to me, and our good county auditor has also spoken with her colleagues in those jurisdictions and found costs to be negligible, if any at all.
Councilman Katch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, listening to the back and forth, I have to believe that there was really no purpose to the executive order that was issued about a month ago. No need at all. What the result has been, there's fear in the communities. I mean, my constituents, many of them have contacted me frightened over this executive order. And secondly, I've had people in the immigrant community contact me. They're frightened. They're afraid that someone's going to show up at their door, et cetera. So you have a population that's frightened over an executive order that was not necessary at all. Now, in regard to the question about what my colleague from the 4th District was asking my colleague from the 7th District a question about, should everybody here who is not here legally be deported? Well, I would hope there's something that we all can agree on. If you have an individual who's in this country illegally, undocumented, and that person commits drunk driving offense after drunk driving offense after drunk driving offense, do we want that person to remain in Baltimore County? I say no. If you have a person who has committed a violent crime, when that person is released from prison, do we want that person to remain in Baltimore County or in the U.S.? I say no. Just like none of us want to see drunk drivers reoffend. We don't want to see people who commit violent crimes reoffend. the primary responsibility of government is to make sure that we have, in this case, a county that provides a safe environment for everyone in this county. And to this executive order, I hear the word sanctuary. I've heard that from so many people, and that is just plain frightening. And I would hope this is a common sense piece of legislation. You realize that people who are sent to the county detention center have already been booked. They've been booked. So they're going to be vetted. So why shouldn't we know where they're from? Why shouldn't we have people who are trained to question individuals in the county detention center who are already booked? So this is not a difficult issue. This is not the setting up of a Gestapo state. Nothing like that. Nothing. And the thing that is really a shame is that our police department, through the community relations councils all over this county, they've done an excellent job. They've built such a great relationship with all the communities in our county. And I hope that this executive order does not in any way hurt that relationship. We are very fortunate in this county to have the police department that we do. It's a police department that cares about Baltimore County, cares about all of us. And fear does not build bridges, and it is very destructive. Thank you.
Mr. Field? Mr. Field?
Yeah, no, just two very quick things. I wanted to point out that through the magic of texting, I was reminded that actually the release date is on the form that we send to ICE every day. It just didn't have dates on the first one.
So it's on the form?
It's on the same form. In other words, it's a bunch of columns: inmate name, location, some kind of number, race, sex, date of birth, foreign born, yes, no. We only send if it's it, yes. Origin, which names the country. I see Iraq, Ghana, Guatemala, Cuba. Immigration, not interested, don't know what that. Booking date and release date. And just to talk just for a second about the executive order, whether or not the executive order was a wise way to convey policy is, that's one conversation. But the executive order was grounded in a sophisticated understanding of the case law that has resulted from immigration enforcement. And the case law has been finding, including right here in the Fourth Circuit, that it is a violation of the United States Constitution to hold somebody in a jail, and it's a little bit more complicated than that, basically, who may only be guilty, as it were, of a civil violation of federal immigration law. And there's a case here that's cited throughout the country. We're not the first people to find this, but you do run into civil rights violations for that sort of thing. And so that's really what that was grounded on, because we often don't know. Most of the time, we have no idea what the immigration violation that's involved is. And as we know, a large number of people who are supposedly undocumented immigrants in the country are actually people who came in on a visa and then overstayed their visa. That is not a criminal violation, and no one should sit in jail. Now, I didn't do that. Okay, I didn't do that for the applause. I'm just saying that as a matter of constitutional law, a person cannot sit in jail for a violation of civil federal immigration law. And so that executive order was very carefully drafted for any number of reasons, but also to make sure that we were in compliance with the Fourth Circuit's decision in a case that's known as Santos. So that's what that was all about.
Councilwoman Bevins?
I just have one more question. I'm just confused. I want to totally understand this because it's such an important issue. Mr. Crandall has said that There's not going to be hardly any cost to this. It's basically a room and a chair. And I appreciate that you've spoken to a sheriff that's not in Baltimore County and the feds who are not in Baltimore County. But have you talked to Baltimore County Corrections? Because I have, and I have talked to the administration. And we do not get reimbursed for the cost that it takes to train our correction officers. So I'll just give you a scenario. They pay for the training. The feds will give you the training. But we have to fly them out, we have to pay their lodging, and we have to feed them. So if we take 10 correction officers out of our corrections, who's filling their positions, and we already know what's going on in our Department of Corrections. We already have open vacancies that we have not been able to fill so far. So if we take 5 or 10 correction officers and fly them to Texas or wherever for a month for training, we're paying them while they're gone, we're paying all their expenses, and we're paying these people to fill their positions. You can't tell me that's got a zero magic number to it. It doesn't. And we pass a good budget every year, a tight budget. We keep our AAA bond rating. And I've been told that this could cost in the millions per year just implementing it. So I appreciate all the information that you're sharing from other people. But did you talk to the people in Baltimore County and what's going to cost the Baltimore County tax dollars, not the people out in Orange County?
Okay.
Councilman Crandall, if you want to respond.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Valid questions. We made 2 requests to the agency director that were not responded to. So
is that your response?
Well, that's part of the response. So the agency director did not respond to 2 requests for a meeting. I will tell you that the good folks in Harford County told me that their travel, food, and the training were all paid for by the federal government. And what Harford County did is they send a couple people at a time. You don't have to send a whole half your workforce all at one time for 4 weeks to, it's not Texas, it's Charleston actually. So you would have to backfill that position while they're away on training, but now we have a trained corrections officer in the facility, and over time, and this is what Harford County is doing, over time they're building up to where they'll have someone trained for every shift. But they're doing that over the course of a few years, not just all in one
So I guess my
trip.
question is, what is that now trained correction officer doing differently than our correction officers are doing now?
Our corrections officers are currently untrained to assess the immigration status of an individual.
Doesn't it just get put into a computer, goes directly to ICE?
No, because if ICE has never encountered that person, either at the border or they have a visa, they have a biometric on that individual. They fingerprint that individual. If the individual has come in, and this is why so many, or ICE believes so many are slipping through the cracks in Baltimore County, is if you come over the border illegally and ICE has never encountered you, there is no biometric to report to ICE. So ICE never knows anything about those individuals. So what the 287G program does is trains corrections officers upon intake to ask everybody, regardless of skin color, name, or anything. They ask everybody those immigration status questions, and they're trained to ask further questions if they feel that that person's not being truthful, reading body language, and just it's how the training works, why it's so extensive.
Well, question, Councilman Crandall, just on that comment. What is your response then that we are communicating daily with ICE and DHS, every day, information sharing, communication sharing about every prisoner
according to
in
ICE
the detention facility?
According to ICE officials, we are inefficient in identifying the immigration status, and that we are again, if that biometric is not on record, then ICE would never know about that particular individual. So if you believe that what we're doing is okay now, why wouldn't we codify it, get people trained, take advantage of this program, and do it better and more efficiently?
Well, here's a question for you, Councilman Crandall. Now, I've been in office now for 7 years, and in 7 years, I've not received one phone call, one email, even one constituent comment from anybody in my district about this issue. The only time I've really heard about this issue is now when you're bringing it up. So can you tell me how many calls have you received on this?
Because I brought it up because I am about the public safety of our community. And when you have organizations like MS-13 that are gaining a foothold in Baltimore County, we should do something about it.
So you've received many emails and phone calls on this before you brought up the issue?
No, I brought up the issue when I learned that there were other jurisdictions taking advantage of the program, and I thought it would be a good thing for Baltimore County.
Councilwoman Almond?
According to a study by the University of North Carolina, it was entitled The 287G Program, Cost and Consequences of Enforcement of Local Immigration, found that programs in 2 counties in North Carolina cost those counties over $10 million in only 1 year. That's a significant amount of money. So
I agree. And again, those costs were primarily generated when this program was completely different, when they were actual cars and people hired to go out and do in-the-field enforcement of immigration policies. 287G doesn't work like that any longer. And you know what? I'll make a deal with you, Councilwoman. 6 months after implementation, we'll ask our good county auditor to audit the program and see what the costs truly are.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Question for Mr. Field is, Mr. Field, can you, I know Howard County's been grappling with this issue, and I know the Republican County Executive Kettleman recently came out with some policy guidelines. Can you tell us what those guidelines were and how they compare to existing Baltimore County procedures?
Yeah, actually, as I understand it, the police department in Howard County really came up with the guidelines, but under the direction of Mr. Kittleman, who said many praiseworthy things about it. It's very similar to Mr. Kamenitz's executive order. Howard County Police won't ask about the immigration status of people. They can be sanctioned if they do. They don't enforce civil violations of federal immigration law. They won't pick somebody up just because he's undocumented or she's undocumented. That seems to be the essence of it. Pretty much the same thing.
So what you're saying is the updated policies and procedures recommended by the police and also praised by Republican County Executive from Howard County, those policies and procedures are very similar to Baltimore counties that exist today?
I am, and the truth is, I mean, the number, you hear this number all the time, that, you know, something like 60 jurisdictions have in fact adopted policies like this, whether they do it by executive order or otherwise, and it all, again, goes back to the case law that I was talking about earlier. I mean, they may have other reasons for wanting to do it as well. I mean, we're going to hear just talk today about immigrants and welcoming them and things like that, but the bottom line for a lot of jurisdictions is just after all of the litigation that went on where jurisdictions were found to be liable for violations of federal civil rights laws because they were holding people, often just holding people in jail, often only for violations of civil immigration laws, they were getting clobbered by the federal courts. And so a lot of jurisdictions throughout, I think the first case was in Clackamas County in Oregon or something like that, but there are really a lot of jurisdictions that have adopted policies like this. And some of them, I believe, was after very vigorous enforcement that just got sued. So it is the case that Howard County has adopted something that's very similar to what Mr. Kamenetz wrote, but it's also the case that a lot of jurisdictions around the United States, if only because they're afraid of the potential liability for holding people beyond their release dates or just arresting them, have adopted policies like this. And I'm sure someone here knows the exact number, but the one that I've heard is somewhere in the 60s. So it's not, and big jurisdictions and small ones, so it's not an unusual thing for people to do this sort of thing.
Councilman Couch?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. In speaking with the former chief of police, this executive order did nothing in regard to how the police do their job. They did it one way before the executive order and the same way after. So that's you know, just not an issue. But I do want to say that for the chairman that when the executive order was issued prior to the introduction of this bill, messages from my constituents were pouring in. They were pouring in. And again, fear. And this word sanctuary county is very frightening to a lot of people. Thank you.
Councilman Katz, I distinctly heard Mr. Mike Field say we're not a sanctuary county, so are you purposely giving out misinformation?
No, what I'm saying.
All right, thank you, sir.
No, what I'm saying is, that this is what my constituents have described the executive order as setting up a sanctuary county. I did not.
Well, they're wrong. Okay. Can we have, but hold on. If we do this, we will be here all day.
Okay.
Councilman Jones.
No, I was just, I guess the point I wanted to make, Councilman Katz, is this is exactly why I oppose this type of legislation, because people will not always have all the facts. And when you start sort of like lighting a fire, you never know where it's going to go. You may think it's going to be a small and measured and not going to go wild, but you just never know what's going to happen when you light that fire. So I can understand why some of your constituents would listen to the county executive order and think that it is we are a sanctuary county. I can understand why they would make that stretch. I can also understand why when we introduce legislation such as the one we're talking about today, people will be very fearful of all the facts and what exactly it means. So I certainly understand why people can get it wrong, and it is for those reasons why I have to be opposed to this legislation.
And I did want to state as well, you know, when I was first looking at this issue, the very first people I talked to was the police, the people that are actually right in the middle of all this, the Baltimore County Police. I talked to a bunch of different police, and I asked them, I'm like, well, what do you think about this program being proposed? And every single one of them that I talked to, you know, not, you know, pick and choose, but just randomly, just so I could understand it more, every police officer said, you know, candidly, this issue's a whole lot about nothing. I'm like, well, why is that? Why are you saying that? And they said, well, because this is the fact. The fact of the matter is, if there's a bad person out there, believe me, ICE, if they want them, they get them, period. And that's what the police said. So I was pretty surprised by that, but then I kept surveying, talking to the police, and they said, you know, the same police policies that Baltimore County has used for years and years and years are the same police policies they're using today. And to my knowledge, that system we have has worked really well. You look at the Baltimore County police clearance rates, they're really high. You look at our reputation around the country, it's very high. So I'm kind of thinking this is a lot more about political theater than it is about substance.
Mr. Chairman, you have not talked to the same police officers and Department of Corrections officers that I have, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Is there any other questions or comments from the council before we get to the public?
Yeah, Mr.
Councilman Katz.
Yeah. First of all, I think what the chairman has said is it was an unnecessary executive order, because you said nothing's changed with the police, and that is true. Absolutely true.
Are there any other questions or comments from the council before we get to our 55 patiently waiting public speakers? Anybody else on the council? Okay, why don't we take a quick, before we get to the public, just take a quick 30-second break, and then we'll get to our 55 speakers and we'll go through the process, if that's okay. All right, we'll be back in 30 seconds.
Yeah, that should be fine. 1:30, come over. Sorry, it's like everything's hectic. Yeah.
It's a good idea. Just come here instead of wandering over there. Fred's idea?
going to start. If we could all get assembled. If we could resume this work session. First of all, I did want to thank everyone here for coming. Whether you're for this or against this, I appreciate the public interest, and I appreciate all of you being here. I know our council members appreciate each and every one of you coming out as well. And now we're going to begin the public session with, I think we have 55 public speakers. Just a couple ground rules, if I could. Each of you is allowed up to 2 minutes to speak each. I'll call the first speaker, then the second speaker. So the first speaker comes to the podium, the second speaker sits down close to the podium. And then if you're done speaking, you can yield, obviously, the rest of your time. The next speaker comes up. But you always know where you're at in line. And if I could ask that each of your comments, like Councilman Crandall said, are polite and courteous, and that are worthy of this chamber. In other words, please refrain from attacking anyone individually. Please refrain from possible foul language. Please just be respectful, professional, and courteous. And if somebody's already said what you came here to say, just stand up and say, I yield my time, or, my comments have already been taken. And then we'll go to the next speaker. Okay, so saying that, our first speaker is Betty LeBrun, followed by Ruth Goetz. And Getz. And are you Miss LeBrun?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you. By the way, thank you all for your patience. I know it's already late in the day, so thank you all for sticking with us. Good afternoon. You have up to 2 minutes. Appreciate coming out.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to completely change my testimony. Todd Crandall is a very wise young man. Democrats, listen to him. He's got a lot of good common sense. We need to strengthen and enforce the ties with ICE. Let them do their job. Let them do their job. Todd Crandall, he said almost everything. I could just sit down and say what he said, mega dittos. And Wade Koch spoke extremely well. You stole a lot of my thunder, Mr. Koch, and David Marks also. Good stuff from you. But I'm Betty LeBrun. I'm a lifelong Marylander, born and raised in Rosedale, and for 45 and a half years, a homeowner in Owings Mills. Let's see. On the wall, equality and liberty under law, under law, under law. More about that later. We're a nation under law. I'm also a member of the Republican Central Committee of Baltimore County. Nobody asked me to testify. I come as a concerned citizen. This illegal alien problem is one of the top big 5 crises facing our country, and we've got to deal with it multi-pronged, a number of things. And this one little step to help ICE do their job. And let me just say this to Kathy Bevins and Vicki Allen. Since when do Democrats worry about the cost to the taxpayer? That's a new one. You tax the hell out of us year after year with property taxes. We have sales taxes raised by Martin O'Malley up to 6%. Taxes. So that's a red herring that you threw into this because you're waffling. We're going to watch carefully to see how you vote on this issue. But we've got to deal. And Mr. Quirk, it is not political theater. The illegal alien situation is a tangled mess that we've got a wonderful new president who is working on it.
Thank you for your time.
Pass the bill.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ruth Goetz.
I can't even stop.
Getz.
For the third time, Getz.
Thank you.
Ms. Getz had to leave, so she has designated me to deliver her.
I'm sorry, each speaker gets up to 2 minutes. If she's not here, we'll move to the next person, Mr. Andrew
Mrs.
Alter.
Getz doesn't get to be heard?
I'm sorry, each speaker gets up to 2 minutes.
Would one of you read it then?
You're more than welcome to give it to one of our secretaries, and we'll look at the comments. Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrew Arthur, followed by Sheila Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon.
Thank members of the council for having this hearing today. A little bit of background. I'm a resident fellow in law and policy at the Center for Immigration Studies, a nonpartisan think tank in Washington, D.C., nonprofit. For 8 years, I was an immigration judge. For 7 years, I was a legislative counsel on immigration in Congress. I've also been Associate General Counsel of the INS, and I'm a former prosecutor at the INS. I'm going to tell you today what you're going to hear, and I'm going to tell you why some of it's not true. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is cost. Section 287G cooperation produces significant local criminal justice cost savings as well as public safety benefits. Here's the reason why. Most immigrants in the United States don't commit crimes, but alien criminals commit crimes. GAO found in 2009 that the average incarcerated alien had 7 arrests and had committed 12 offenses. The next thing that you're going to hear is this will lead to racial profiling. Proper training, as has been alluded to by the members, will ensure that the law is applied without bias and favor. We trust our government employees today, and I don't think they're going to change. Any racial profiling would be minimized through appropriate training, and there have been no substantiated instances of racial profiling or abuse of authority in any jail 287G case. I'd note that this has been called Trumpism. I don't want to get into name-calling. I would note that 287G is part of the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act of 1996, which was signed by President Clinton. There was also a question about civil rights detainers. I didn't mean to talk about this, but it's been mentioned a lot. I don't want to mix apples and oranges, but detainers will be less needed if people are identified earlier in the process. That way they can be, if they are screened through 287G, they will be identified. ICE will be notified in a timely manner, and any possibility of that will be minimized. I thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arthur. Our next speaker is Sheila Ruth, followed by Colleen Ebacher. Okay, thank you. So Sheila Ruth, followed by Edward Johnson. Good afternoon.
Hi. My name is Sheila Ruth, and I live in Council District 1 for 28 years. I oppose Bill 3217. Since not everyone agrees on the moral issues, I'm going to focus on 2 aspects that I think all Baltimore County residents can agree with: safety and cost. Although supporters of 287G claim that the programs will make us safer, in fact, they have actually undermined public safety by harming the relationship between law enforcement and local communities, according to police chiefs from 64 largest police departments in the United States and Canada. And these 287G programs have not focused solely on serious criminals. An analysis from the Migration Policy Institute showed that half of all detainers issued through the program were on people who had committed misdemeanors and traffic offenses. The Department of Corrections already struggles with staffing and overtime. These problems have required a supplemental addition of $500,000 to their $37 million budget this year. ICE's own budget problems and staffing problems are well documented. This bill would basically transfer ICE's deficits to us. ICE will pay for all training and equipment, but Baltimore County would have to pay the associated costs, including travel, housing, per diem for officers during 4 weeks of initial training, as well as required refresher training. Other costs will be the ongoing expenses of salaries, overtime, supplies, and other administrative and personal costs, as well as the cost of detention. Although detention costs may be reimbursed in part by the federal government, such reimbursements generally cover only a fraction of the cost of detention. A University of North Carolina study cited in the Baltimore Sun found that similar-sized jurisdictions in this program had annual costs of approximately $5 million a year. So how do the sponsors propose to pay for this questionable program and keep a balanced budget? What county services or public safety measures will be eliminated to pay for these costly and unnecessary requirements? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Edward Johnson, followed by Peter Richkes.
All right. Thanks to Mr. Koch. I've changed my opening a little because I've lived in your district for 15 years. You know, I still don't lock my doors. I don't deal with the hysteria of people being in fear. But obviously some of you people, your friends do. But I'm not here to talk about that. My family has been in Baltimore since 1650. We are one of the founding families of Baltimore City and many of Baltimore County. In fact, we're responsible for the name Timonium. My family fought in the American Revolution. And my great-grandfather was the first president of the Anti-Slavery Society of 1789. My another cousin gave one of the most radical anti-slavery speeches that said that African Americans were equal to whites in every intellectual capacity in 1791. And there's a book written about that. So I'm continuing on this tradition of standing up for injustice in this family. I don't know if people are aware, but you know Maryland's founded by criminals. And the British exported 50,000 criminals to this country. And a large majority of them came to Maryland. They didn't vet them. They didn't say you couldn't come. They welcomed them with open arms. They were happy to come. We were happy to have them. But we continue this. But meanwhile, we started after the revolution. We started this hysteria about people coming in. First, the Germans. The Germans. We can't have the Germans here. No. Then it starts with the Irish. The Irish can't come. They shouldn't be here. Of course, we don't have the sophistication to check on what their criminal intents are. Then we have the Italians. Can't have the Italians here. No, not at all. And then we even stop the Jews who want to come in during World War II. We can't have them come here. But this is nothing new. We start a whole new hysteria all over again. Now we got the Hispanics. We can't have them here. And
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Our next speaker, Peter Richkiss, followed by Heather Benno. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Chairman and council members. As I've already made clear in my letter to the editor to the Baltimore Sun last week, I do oppose this bill. Much of my career has actually been involved with all aspects of public safety, policy, and implementation. When I was Secretary of the Maryland Department of General Services, I had my own police force. On and after 9/11, I was a member of the Maryland Security Council. As a member of the Port of Baltimore Commission for 6.5 years, I served with the port security operations on their security, safety, and immigration issues. The port, of course, is a major port of entry, not only for goods, but potentially for bad actors. The FBI, the TSA, the Coast Guard, and the Executive Office of the President can vouch for me. I've completed all of their security clearance requirements. Mr. Fields has already described what is common sense public safety, and that is the program already adhered to by our county corrections and other law enforcement agencies. As I would hope, as I think everyone would hope, legally detaining those who are criminal or as required by judicial documents rather than fear-mongering. I've also managed, created, defended, dissected agency budgets, and I've taught public finance and public budgeting at the University of Baltimore. Will this program cost $5.3 million, 4.8, 6.8? More, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richkiss. Our next speaker, Heather Benno, followed by Nick Steiner. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Heather Benno, and I am a managing attorney for Catholic Charities of Baltimore's Esperanza Center Immigration Legal Services. Esperanza Center is a full, comprehensive immigrant resource center located in Baltimore City. However, over a quarter of all immigration legal services clients reside in Baltimore County, and over 1,200 residents of Baltimore County were served both in our medical clinic and our immigration legal services program in this present fiscal year. We're here today to oppose this legislation because it would be a threat to public safety in Baltimore County, including the immigrant community, but not only the immigrant community. all residents of the county. Law enforcement's primary responsibility is to serve and protect. And when this relationship, when the trust between the residents and law enforcement is degraded, law enforcement simply cannot do its job. When localities, and this is what we hear from our clients, when localities increase formal collaboration with ICE through programs such as 287G, it makes immigrants less likely to contact the police for fear both of racial profiling and arrest, and also less likely to be helpful in investigations and prosecutions where there are witnesses. We currently represent Terry, a 49-year-old woman whose husband and the father of her son was assaulted, robbed, and murdered in Reisterstown, Maryland in December 2015 by a U.S. citizen. Terry was undocumented at the time. Her husband's body was found 2 days after he was reported missing to local law enforcement. Now, believing that they weren't in any danger, this family stepped up and assisted, and now this murderer is behind bars, convicted with life behind prison. So this is why we encourage
Thank you.
you to vote down this bill.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nick Steiner, followed by Emily Panoff.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Nick Steiner. I'm an attorney at the American Civil Liberties Union of Maryland, and I'm a Catonsville resident. I wanted to focus on the legal and constitutional problems with 287G programs. 287G programs only require the local officers involved in the program 4 weeks of training, an extremely short time frame for an extremely complicated area of the law. What ends up happening then is mistakes are made. These mistakes are constitutional mistakes, constitutional violations, and they are violations committed against people in Baltimore County. These violations are violations of racial profiling, violations of prolonged detention, violations of discriminatory policing, and for what? In Frederick County, the 287G program there is being enforced in a way that has no impact on public safety. 80% of all of the arrests in the program were for low-level offenses, and of that, 60% for traffic offenses. They're targeting communities of color and sending them out of the country for what, traffic tickets? Let's be clear on what this bill is. It is a part of a broader political climate to target immigrants. We will not stand for that in Baltimore County. I say it loud and I say it clear. Immigrants are welcome here, and it'll always be that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emily Panoff, followed by John Ballinger. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Datnoff. Just to be completely candid, I am not a resident of Baltimore County. My family's from Baltimore County, but I am a public defender who works in the Baltimore County office. I will change my testimony. I'm going to make it a lot briefer than I originally had planned. A lot of the concern that I've heard people discuss is the issue of public safety. And I think that everyone, myself included in this room, can agree that we don't want repeat offenders, violent criminals, people who are legally subject to deportation to remain in this country. Unfortunately, this program does not target those individuals with precision. There are a number of crimes in Baltimore that criminalize behavior that is not violent, that aren't serious crimes, such as driving without a license, driving while suspended, construction without a license, disorderly conduct. The net that is cast is going to be extremely wide and will not target with precision those who are violent criminals. The other thing that we're all aware of in Maryland is that anybody can go down to the commissioner's office and fill out a statement of charges under oath. Whether or not those charges turn out to be true is another question. Whether or not the arrest is legal is also another question. Once you're arrested, you are wrapped up in this system where you will be identified by a deputized corrections officer. Cost. Of all the studies that I've reviewed, I have not found a city where the cost was less than $4 million. So I don't know where we're getting this analysis that the costs are going to be negligible. I'm not even sure what negligible means. And lastly, I want to end that it was stated that the release date is given to ICE already.
Thank
so
you.
I should be able to come and get the person a upon their release.
Thank you. I appreciate you coming out. Our next speaker, John Ballinger, followed by Pat Jones. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for your service. This has been fascinating. I am the Reverend Dr. John Ballinger, white, middle-aged, evangelical pastor, in my 15th year at Woodbrook Baptist Church here in Towson. That's 14 years of paying my taxes, voting, buying local whenever I can, and having my daughters in the county public school system since kindergarten. After more than 30 years of Bible study, I speak against the 287G program because it's against Scripture as I understand and interpret it. As part of the larger current ethos surrounding a mistrust of ICE and of our national attitude and treatment of undocumented aliens, the fear you mentioned, sir, that this exacerbates. 92 times in the Old Testament alone, God commands us to care for the stranger and the alien in our midst. I'm not oblivious to the dangers of our world, not naive to risk, but while we have been told this proposed bill targets only criminals, I understand it was justified in part playing on the rage and the fear of a local community blaming two undocumented aliens for a horrible crime. Two boys, Henry Milian, Jose Montano, against whom charges have been dropped. So misplaced fear. I speak against this bill because it nurtures a detrimental us and them mentality. It undermines law enforcement beyond the corrections department in relationships in which trust is vital. It separates families, scaring and depriving children. It circumvents due process. You speak to it at some imagined best as if people won't be living it at its worst. It draws needed resources from bigger problems, and make no mistake, we have huge problems that we would be better to prioritize and work together to solve. I pray we will choose the best we can dream and not the worst we can fear. As a person of faith, I believe in love, generosity, hope, and grace. How silly, how hopeful.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Pat Jones, followed by Betty Symington.
So I'm Pat Jones. I'm a resident of Baltimore County. I'm the director of the Immigration Outreach Service Center. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, Mr. Chairman and County Council people. I stand opposed to Bill number 3217 and to the creation of a 287G agreement with the federal government. Let's begin with some immigrant facts pertinent to Maryland. In 2014, 1 in 7 Marylanders was born in another country. 1 in 7. In that year, they earned $34 billion. $3 billion went to state and local taxes. That means here, Baltimore County, and that includes undocumented. $6 billion went to federal taxes, leaving $25 billion in spending power. Regarding Bill 3217 targeting immigrants, I'm opposed to detaining any individual past their scheduled release date. I'm opposed to discriminating and profiling people based upon perceptions that they believe may indicate immigration violations. These detention tactics feed into resources that fund privatized prison systems to hold many hard-working people who support their families, including U.S. citizen children. These tactics will only serve to fracture and destroy families and create huge populations of U.S. citizen children who will be placed in the care of the communities. Following these tactics will create an enormous financial and social services burden to taxpayers. Finally, we need to fight against this, fight instead for civil rights, human rights, safety and security for people on both sides of this question, recognizing there are no easy answers, but 3217 is not the right answer right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Betty Symington, followed by Alexa Nunes. Good
Thank
afternoon.
you, council members. My name is Betty Symington, and I'm a resident of beautiful District 3, sir. And I'm here to say that many of us in District 3 do not support this bill. I have lived there since 1993. I feel completely safe. I have not locked my door or my car since 1993. And I often forget to do it when I come into the city, and so far, so good. I have many thoughts, many of which have been expressed already, and many of which I'm sure will be expressed after my brief time. But I'd like to say two things. I think we have to be honest with ourselves as to what this bill actually represents and what the emotional motivation is behind it, and perhaps even reflected in the fear that, of some of the constituents from your district who are calling. And that is that there is a very negative, very disparaging narrative in our country today against immigrants, that we are seeking to blame others for things that we all share responsibility for, and we need to keep that in consideration. And I also beseech you to re-examine your sponsorship of this bill, to listen to the facts and the figures, the serious legal consequences and civil rights consequences and potential public safety consequences of this bill, and that when people call you in your office, that you will direct them to the resources, the individuals in the offices that are being represented here today for further information, perhaps to assuage their concerns and make them feel a little bit more comfortable living in this beautiful and diverse and vibrant county we live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Just real quick, it's happened twice now. I don't know if it's such a good idea to announce in a public setting where your last name is mentioned to say that you don't lock your doors. I just wanted to get that.
All right. So our next speaker, Alexa Nunez, followed by Brenda Suarez.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Alexa Nunez, and I'm a 17-year-old senior at Owens Mills High School. What I'd like to say is that, I immigrated 6 years ago to reunite with my mom when I was just 11. Today I'd like to say that what 28.7G will do is destroy the trust of our community between our community and our police officers. This will not create a safer community. It will create more fear, not just in Owens Mills, but in all Baltimore County. I constantly fear for my mom's safety. I don't know if one day someone will stop her and we'll be separated. That's one of the biggest fears I have. 28.7G will not, it's not a way to create a safer community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
Thank you, Alexa. You make Owens Mills proud. Thank you. Sure.
Our next speaker is Brenda Suarez, followed by Kate Holmes.
Muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Brenda Suárez.
Good afternoon. My name is Brenda Suarez.
He estado aquí por 13 años viviendo en la Essex.
I have been living in Essex for the last 13 years.
Y estoy aquí presente porque estoy luchando por mi familia, por mi comunidad.
I am here today because I am fighting for my family, for my community.
Porque lo que esta ley representa para mí y para mi comunidad es devastador, ya que como tengo mis hijas, siempre corre el riesgo de tener en mente que algún día no podamos regresar a casa para cuidar de ellas.
287G is devastating for myself and my community because I fear that I will not be able to come home one day and take care of my girls.
Cuando el ejecutivo del condado firmó la orden ejecutiva, yo estaba tranquila, pero ahora que están proponiendo esta ley, siento miedo porque no quiero que nuestras familias sean separadas.
When the county executive passed the executive order, I started to fear less and feel safe. But now that we're discussing 287G, I am afraid again, and I am afraid that our families will be separated.
El único país que mis hijas conocen como el suyo es Ellas no conocen otro país más que solo aquí.
The only country that myself and my family know is this country. They don't know any country as their home.
Y siempre estaré presente luchando por mis hijas, por mi familia y por mi comunidad. Somos una familia que siempre ha estado ayudando a la comunidad, en la iglesia, en la escuela, siempre voluntariados en lo que la comunidad necesita de nosotros.
And I will continue in this fight. We are a family that has been very active, fighting and participating in church, in our community, and we will continue in this fight.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kate Holmes, followed by Wendell Thompson. Good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Kate Holmes. I am a 10-year resident of Kearney, Maryland in District 3. I do not live in fear. I will openly admit I do not lock my doors, I do not lock my car door, and I'm safe and confident in saying that. I'm here representing the Baltimore County Green Party and speaking against this horrible bill. This proposed bill is inherently discriminatory in nature and based on fear. Individuals who are detained in the county facility and who appear to be immigrants will be singled out. Racial appearance and the ability to speak fluent English will be utilized as screening tools, whether deliberate or not. This is clearly racial profiling. Time after time, such legislation has been proven to expose individuals with legal status that look foreign or who do not speak English fluently to extra detention, expense, and harassment. This will not only harm them, but it will also harm their families, their communities, and our county. This bill will also add costs to county taxpayers. Passage of this bill will expose our county to costly lawsuits. Some federal courts have already found that additional detention time for inmates for ICE purposes is unconstitutional and actionable. The resources used for the enforcement of this bill will take away from other policing actions that make the county safer. Bill 3217 extends beyond the stated mission of the county jail and requires more resources like time and money. Having our correctional officers act as enforcers for this discriminatory agenda will drive a deeper wedge between county police and immigrant communities. I urge you to listen to the mother that spoke before me. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Our next speaker is Wendell Thompson, followed by Molly Healy.
My name is Wendell Thompson. I live at 707 Maiden Choice Lane in Catonsville. You have a copy of my testimony. I want to make 2 points in my opposition to this bill. First, about the local nature of policing, and second, about the people at the center of this issue. Policing in this country to keep order and fight crime is a local effort. It's the job of the city, the county, the municipality. And so the leaders in those government agencies have the right to allocate resources. So our county executive has done what I think has been a good thing, to allocate resources in ways that he thinks will keep the peace. The second point I want to make was made for me by Glenn Beck in an interview he had with Krista Tippett a few Sundays ago. Now, my son-in-law says I'm taking Glenn Beck out of context, and that may be. Glenn Beck might not be standing here with me in opposition to 3217, but he makes the point I want to make. He said, my audience was beside themselves for about 4 weeks, and I kept trying to explain there's a difference between policy and principles. Now, we can agree on policy that, yes, they shouldn't be here. Yes, they should go home. But the principle is they're people, and they're here. So now what? We can argue about this in Washington, but we have to help people. We have to stand by and see the need that they have. So I think we sent $3 million and 19 semi-truckloads of food down to the border. And that money was all raised by my audience, that once you got past and said, look, don't make this about politics. Let's make this about who we as people are. Well said, Glenn Beck. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Molly Healy, followed by Sheldon Laskin. Molly, are you here? Going once. Helie, Molly Healy. All right, our next speaker is Sheldon Laskin, followed by Rabbi Gustav Bushdahl.
Good afternoon. My name is Sheldon Laskin. I'm a resident of the 2nd District. I'm chair of Baltimore Hebrew Congregation Social Justice Team and a member of Jews United for Justice. My grandfather was an undocumented immigrant, as were all my ancestors who came to this country fleeing pogroms and anti-Semitism in search of a better life. My daughter was an immigrant to this country from China at the age of 6 months. In fact, most Americans are the descendants of undocumented immigrants. Many of those immigrants became citizens, some did not, but most married, often to citizens, and had children, all of whom were citizens. And so it is today. Undocumented immigrants are the parents, spouses, and children of American citizens. Laws such as Council Bill 3217 strike fear in immigrant communities, including the citizens who live there, and threaten families with separation and disruption. These laws are simply unnecessary. Local law enforcement must honor a lawful arrest warrant issued by a judge at the request of ICE, consistent with the detained individual's constitutional right to due process of law. 287G agreements needlessly divert limited local resources from essential law enforcement functions. We deserve better of our county council. Please reject this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rabbi Gustav Buchtel, followed by Dee Hodges.
I do not remember when my father's store was bombed in 1937. I was only 2 years old. But I do remember coming to the United States in 1938. I do remember my father working in the armaments industry. I do remember the FBI coming to our home and taking our shortwave set because we were not illegal immigrants, but we were enemy aliens having come from Germany. I remember the FBI man who came to our door. I remember the fear that it struck in my father and my mother. And over the course of the last 80-some-odd years, and particularly the last 54 here in Baltimore, what is surprising is my great love for the people who have enforced the law, the people who make the law, and I hope that you will continue to let the law enforcement people do what they do and do it well and do it best without further infringement on the rights of others.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dee Hodges, followed by Catherine Guerrero.
Hi. Mr. Koch, thank you for your comments, and thank you for this bill. This is all about illegal immigrants who commit crimes. It's no more than that. And I support this law. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Catherine Guerrero, followed by John Boranow.
Hello. Thank you very much for having us, and I support your comments, Mr. Katch and Mr. Crandall, Mr. Marks. Thank you. I wanted to bring out that this bill was introduced by the Clinton administration, and it was enacted also by the Obama administration for a little while. But it's important to note that nobody is profiling immigrants, a particular race or ethnic background. What's happening here is that we want to get people that can do us harm off the streets. As we all know, MS-13 is a very viable gang. Recently in New York, they just found out that there were multiple people that were mutilated. We have MS-13 in Baltimore County that we have to address and get them off our streets. The police, the firemen don't even want to go into that area. They are there. I was given notice by my son's school 10 years ago that if somebody came up to you driving a car and flashed their lights, do not flash your lights back. because their initiation into their gang is to kill somebody. Now, that may sound ridiculous, but that's their initiation. That's what they did in New York, and they could easily do it here. The fact that we don't want to put policies in place because it costs too much, yet we can clothe illegal immigrants and give them housing and provide college tuition and legal counsel for them. Those cost money just as much. It's not that we're targeting illegal immigrants, but they're not under our Constitution. We have to protect our citizens under our Constitution. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your help.
Next speaker, John Parnell, followed by Molly Amster.
Honorable councilpersons, what is the real motivation for this bill? Let me point you to Mr. Katch's hysterical blog posting to his constituents, of which I am one, on March 23rd. In it, Mr. Katch highlighted a tragic case of what he called horrific rape of a high school student in Montgomery County by illegal immigrants, neglecting the word alleged. Those charges were dropped. So much for presumed innocent until proven guilty, Mr. Katch. On April 11, as evidence of the looming crisis of rapist immigrants, he cited a second case of child rape by an immigrant that he claimed occurred later this April. Only that case occurred a year earlier, 2016, and was successfully prosecuted without any recourse to 287G. It sure looks to me like Mr. Koch was casting about for anything he could find to dig up and frighten people. In 2015, the Maryland.gov open data portal shows there were 609 rapes in Montgomery and Baltimore counties, 59 more, by the way, in the 20% smaller Baltimore County. Cherry-picking a couple of random acts of violence is no way for policymakers to behave. Should counties now look to change the law in response to the tragic murder of a black Bowie State student, allegedly by a white racist student? No, none of this fear-mongering, please, my friends and neighbors. Let us call this bill what it truly is, an attempt by 3 Republican Trump surrogates to stir up hatred and cleanse Baltimore County of undesirable immigrants. Shame on them. What is the real problem we need to solve? It is all of these 609 rapes, the vast majority of which were committed by our own citizen. Let us focus on the right problem and fix that. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Molly Amster, followed by Dale Cassidy.
Hi, I'm Molly Amster from Baltimore Jews United for Justice. I yield my time, but I want to urge a no vote on this bill.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dale Cassidy, followed by Howard Levitt.
I have a little something for you all to start. Just a little something. If you guys could take that, please. I'm Dale Cassidy. I'm in the 5th District, and I'm speaking on behalf of No 287G, a coalition that includes Indivisible Towson, Indivisible North Baltimore County, Together We Will Baltimore, and other county groups and individuals. I brought in 728 petitions against 3217, 287G. 115 petitions for Mr. Quirk, 118 petitions for Ms. Allman, 178 petitions for Mr. Koch, 32 petitions for Mr. Jones, 139 petitions for Mr. Marks, 136 petitions for Ms. Bevins, and 10 for Mr. Crandall. The petitions were signed because people said, nope, we're not doing this. And that's the bottom line there. Now, we all know nobody wants to have crime. We want the criminals off the street. We want the county safer. But what I question, and I think what most people should be questioning, is whether there is even a problem that needs to be solved in Baltimore County, and if so, whether entering into 287G agreement is the most effective way to solve it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Yes.
Hi. Could you please just tell me, because I missed at the beginning, did you get all these petitions face-to-face from people?
This was canvassing and knocking on doors.
It was not done over the Internet.
We had some over the Internet, but you can look at
Thank you so much.
Okay. And I just want to remind everybody before we have our next speaker is Howard Libet, followed by Elizabeth Johnson, that we could, as much as we can, refrain from personal attacks. Let's keep it on the facts, keep on the statements, and let's try to keep this as courteous as we can on both sides. Good people on both sides. We don't always agree with each other, but that is democracy. Mr. Howard Libet.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, my name is Howard Libet. I'm executive director of the Baltimore Jewish Council and a resident of Rogers Forge. I'm here to oppose the proposal to require our Baltimore County Jail to participate in the federal immigration screening program known as 287G. Migration has been a central element of the Jewish experience since biblical times, when famine forced the Jewish people to flee Canaan and resettle in Egypt. Leviticus 19:33 commands, when a stranger resides with you in your land, you shall not wrong him. This experience has been mirrored in American Jewish life with the emigration of Jews to the United States in search of religious freedom and economic opportunity. As a reflection of our history, and based upon the biblical imperative to welcome the stranger, the American Jewish community has long advocated for fair and just immigration and refugee policies. The proposal before the County Council does not help to advance a fair and just system. Instead, it needlessly creates an atmosphere of fright and fear while doing nothing to enhance either security or the enforcement of existing laws. We urge the Council to reject this bill.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Elizabeth Johnson, followed by Shakaland Habar.
Thank you, Mr. Katch. I'm in your district. It's nice to meet you. Thank you for your time, everyone. I just want to stand here as a mom of 5 children raised in this county. I love this county. I want to stay in this county. I have a child from another country. She is terrified. Her friends, who are also minorities, are terrified of your bill, Mr. Katch. I oppose it strongly. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker, Mr. Habar, followed by Gillian Spencer.
Hello, my name is Sachidanand Habar, and I'm a resident of Lutherville, Maryland. When I first moved to Baltimore, I lived in a multi-storied complex near Homewood campus. We lived on the 2nd floor, and our bedroom or home office window overlooked the roof of the lobby that extended outside the building. One night at 12:30 a.m. or so, there was a knock on my bedroom window. There was a woman bleeding and begging for help outside. I opened the window and I pulled her in and I made her sit on the chair. And in between her cries, she confided that she had been pushed out of her 3rd-floor apartment by her live-in boyfriend. As the woman bled all over my carpet and chair, she begged us not to call the police. I knew that she needed medical attention, and so I asked my wife in my native language to go to the other room and call 911. The cops came promptly. The boyfriend was hanging outside my apartment, gawking at my other members of my family. I had to request the cops to move him away from my apartment door. The woman later recanted her story, as routinely happens in domestic violence cases. She told the police that she fell out of the window. The day after the incident, at the office, some of my international coworkers thought that I was absolutely crazy to help her. I was on H-1 visa at that time. It is not uncommon for witnesses to be blamed or at least implicated in the domestic violence cases, where the victim has a higher degree of attachment to the perpetrator than the person who is providing aid. Had I been caught up in he said, she said, my career, my life, and everything that I had worked for would have been easily destroyed. Only last week, a defense attorney was indicted in Baltimore City for intimidating a victim in a rape case with the threat of deportation. If the climate had been anti-immigrant then, as it is now, I would not have opened that bedroom window and rescued that woman. Dear council members, as compared to the...
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Gillian Spencer, followed by Jackie Seipel.
Thank you, and it's Jillian from Catonsville. If passed, this bill will lead to an increased racial profiling. I'm here today for a dear friend who couldn't be here and asked me to speak on her behalf. 2 Thanksgivings ago, her son, a recent Columbia graduate who happens to be African American, had almost reached his doorstep after an evening walk. Before he knew what was happening, he was grabbed by the arms, thrown against the police car, and handcuffed. When the officers finally listened to him, he explained why he was out and pointed to his house. Around this time, my friend had heard the commotion and opened her door to investigate. An officer yelled out to her to identify her son, and once she did, she was ordered back inside immediately. Do you have children? If so, you know that no parent can stand by as they witness their child being abused. When my friend reopened her door and asked for an explanation, she was again ordered inside, and a second officer was stationed as a sentry by her door. Shaking, she pulled aside her curtain and watched helplessly as the officers surrounded her son and fired question after question at him. After what seemed like an eternity, they uncuffed him, allowed him to climb the stairs and into his house and enter his house. As he trembled, he told her that there had been a TV set and other devices stolen from a house nearby. The owners had caught sight of the thief as he fled and called the police immediately. Having had the perpetrator described to them, the officers had grabbed my friend's son based solely on the color of his skin. He was shorter, stouter, and dressed differently than the person that had been described. And it had nothing but a phone in his possession. In this case, they had stopped him. Profiling must stop.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Jackie Seipel, followed by Abram Kronsberg.
Thank you. My name is Jackie Seipel. I'm a resident of Catonsville. I'm just very surprised that this program has been proposed in Baltimore County given the recent consent decree in Baltimore City. A lesson from Baltimore City is that public safety is best served when the police are seen as part of the community. How can the police build public trust when they are viewed like soldiers instead of civil servants who are working to protect the community? Our police officers have enough to do without enforcing federal immigration law, potentially exposing themselves to liability and risking alienation of the communities that they want to protect. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. The next speaker is Abram Kronsberg, followed by Claude Guillemard.
My name is Abram Kronsberg. I live in Ms. Almond's district. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I speak in opposition to the bill. I want my law enforcement dollars spent on improving clearance rates of major crimes and other similar priorities, not on detaining and deporting immigrants for minor crimes. The Department of Homeland Security admitted in a 2010 report that 287G agreements are unsuccessful at ridding communities of serious criminals rather than those who commit minor infractions such as traffic violations. If the federal government wants immigration enforcement enhanced and wants to avoid its responsibility to enact comprehensive immigration reform, please don't do it with my Baltimore County tax dollars, personnel, and facilities. In a time when citizens beg governments to kill ineffective and costly government programs, this is one bill that should be nipped in the bud. What we need is comprehensive reform of the immigration process. That can only be done at the federal level. Let's stop playing political games and demand the reform we really need. I ask you to oppose the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Claude Guillemard, followed by Clara Chow.
Good afternoon. I am an immigrant, as you can hear. I live in Timonium, and I've decided to come after receiving your email, from you, my council member, Mr. Karch, because your email mentioned that the people of Baltimore County did not want that executive order, and I want to come here to say that I do want that executive order, even though the language of council executive cabinets, because even though the language does not affiliate us with a sanctuary city, it is the spirit that I want. I live in this neighborhood without any fear, like many of other people who spoke before me, and it is your bill that makes me scared, because I think it is going to completely destroy the climate we're trying to build in Baltimore County. I can read also those words on those walls. I'm French, so I can see that you're missing fraternity. But with equality and liberty under law, yes, if we're so concerned about illegality, I think we should go after the illegality of those in power higher up. For example, this administration is illegal in threatening to withdraw federal funds for the sanctuary cities. It is actually illegal. Going after the most vulnerable among us is not the decent way to go. I'm an immigrant, but I'm white, and I learned that in this country it comes with privileges that we're not aware of. But I can go with minor traffic violations safely. Other people can't, and I'm here to defend them. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Claire Chow, followed by Pina Tra.
My name is Clara Chow, and I have been living Baltimore County for over 35 years. It's a safe and good county. But the sanctuary policy and will harbor the illegal aliens, criminals when local police are banned from cooperate with ICE. And federal county has implemented 287G program since 2008. ICE has trained local certain and law enforcement officers to carry out and enforce federal immigration laws. The result is beyond marvelous. In recent federal county jail visit, it is revealed that the illegal immigration crimes has reduced from 8.5% to 2% among all crimes. And Sheriff Jenkins recommended that more communities should follow the federal county model of close coordinate with ICE. Our community safety should be our first and ultimate concern, since we are so close to Baltimore City, especially since Baltimore County announced as a sanctuary county. For this reason, I urge you to vote yes for Bill 3217. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Pina Tra, followed by Leslie Grant. Is Pina Tra, C-H-R? Are you here? Yes, come on up. Yeah, it's P-E-I-N-A, C-H-R?
S-H-R.
Yes, okay.
Hi, my name is Pena. I live in Baltimore County, Catonsville. I have been living in this county for over 20 years. I came to America for over 35 years. So I look totally different than most white people, so people can identify me as an immigrant easily. And I'm saying I look different American. I speak with the accents, but I have been here. I never be bothered by the police, and also I don't understand why, and so many people have a fear about this, about those the law, and about the police, because I never have that fear, and most people I know that we don't have that kind of fear, and I'm illegal immigrants. We are against illegal immigrants, especially illegal immigrants which has a criminal record. But when I hear most of the countries saying they talk about immigrants, I am immigrants. I appreciate this country give me the opportunity to come here, but I don't appreciate people who come here illegally and yet commit a crime. So I think most of people, when they talk about immigrants, they didn't stress illegal immigrants. So I'm for this bill because I believe this bill will help to reduce the illegal immigrants who commit the crime. Also, before I come to America, I know about American from all the TV and all the people, which I find out is not 100% describe the American life. So when I come to America, I find out the small little prescription from the TV, from the book, does not complete accurate for the American life. But I also think most immigrant information they talk about is not accurate.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Leslie Grant, followed by Amy Zhang.
Good afternoon, and I want to thank you for allowing democracy to work and letting us come and speak. And consequently, I'm opposed to 3217 because it chips away at democracy. And I want to make very, very clear, I've talked with my councilman. I'm from lovely Glenarm, and Councilman Catch knows how I feel. We have engaged in very civil electronic communication about how I feel about this matter. And Councilman Crandall really opened the door with a lot of fodder for anyone who had prepared remarks to throw them out of the window, because it is sometimes okay to not follow the law. Talk with fellow Marylander Harriet Tubman if you could. The Underground Railroad was against the law. Anti-miscegenation laws, people broke those. Voting rights and restrictions, when people registered to vote or tried to, they were breaking the law. So sometimes it's okay, young man, to break the law. I want you to know also that to be safe, I would like for my fire department to be secure. I would like for juvenile crime to be addressed in an evidence-based manner. I believe that is far more of a significant issue than this trivia you have proposed. So I'm opposed to the bill, and I look forward to as many of you who believe in democracy and our country and our lovely county to oppose it as well. Thank you.
Next speaker is Amy Zhang, followed by John Egan.
Good afternoon, dear Chairman and Council members. My name is Amy Zhang. I live in Baltimore County with my 2 kids and my husband. I love living in this county. I have been in Baltimore County for over 8 years, and I'm an immigrant. I became a citizen of U.S. early this year. And when I heard the county executive issued the order in April, that brought me 2 concerns here. One, safety, and the other one is the fairness. In terms of the safety, I have heard about the news about the illegal immigrants within Maryland State. Like, I think we all heard about the rapes in the teenager girl was raped in Montgomery County, and also what happened in Montgomery County in May this month, which is illegal immigrant was arrested by the county on May 1st after being accused of bringing AR-15 onto school property. And ICE filed an immigration detainer to instruct the enforcement agencies to hold the individual up to 48 hours so that they can be transferred into ICE custody. Rather than abide the request, Montgomery County officials let the man leave. Can you imagine this could happen in our county? I just so concerned about my family's safety, my children's safety. And the other concern I have is about the fairness. The executive order really created unfairness about the immigrants. I'm an immigrant, and I really embrace the immigration law, and I followed the legal path to become a citizen.
Thank you.
And I choose the legal path, and I want everybody to choose the legal path.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Egan, followed by Larry Pullen. Is John Egan here? All right, so we got Larry Pullen, followed by Mark Hobson.
Thank you for this opportunity to address the council. Two brief comments. I've been working as a criminal defense attorney for 40 years, mostly in Baltimore County, and the Baltimore County criminal justice system is a fine system and has done very well at separating violent criminals from the community without the help of ICE. Notwithstanding the fear-mongering and blatant misinformation by the President of the United States, the existence of immigrants, documented and undocumented, is of great benefit to this community and to this country. The undocumented, by far greater percentage when compared to the population as a whole, are far more law-abiding, have strong family units, are employed and self-supporting, pay income taxes, pay Social Security taxes, pay Medicare taxes. The children work hard and succeed at school, and yes, the so-called dreamers have big dreams. People who have struggled so heroically to get here and who have contributed and continue to contribute so much to our society deserve the encouragement, the assistance, acceptance, and an easier path to citizenship. I am a lifelong resident of Baltimore City and Baltimore County and the grandchild of immigrants. Bill 3217 is destructive and shameful, and I would respectfully request that it be soundly rejected by this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Mark Hobson, followed by Ganyan Yang.
Hi, Mark Hobson, a lifelong resident of Baltimore County. The rhetoric is way over the top, obviously. I think that it's a very simple solution. Let's just obey the law. I don't see anything wrong with agreeing to work with ICE. I would rather be more secure and more safe for my 17-year-old daughter and my 10-year-old son. Ellis Island, they were all legal immigrants. Immigration was stopped for 40-some years, 1926, 1964. No immigration at all. It's not about immigration. It's about illegal immigration. And in this case, it's only about the police in the detention centers and the jails looking at the current population and seeing who they are. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ganyan Yang, followed by Rung Yao. Is Mr. and Mrs. Yang here at Harcrest Way? All right. How about Rung Yao at 5103 Clohaven? They must have gone. Jonathan Hainan. Okay. And then Mr. Hainan, followed by Mark Baskerville. Good afternoon.
Okay, yeah, hi. My name's Jonathan Hainan. I'm from the Federation for American Immigration Reform, a nonprofit, nonpartisan nonprofit based in Washington, D.C. with over 1.5 million members. We could talk about all the cases when you don't comply with ICE detainers. You're going to have people die like Allie Kuhnhart, Tessa Trenchant, Sarah Root, when illegal aliens who have served crimes are let out and law enforcement doesn't comply with ICE detainers. It's just a ticking time bomb here. Another thing, they are here in Maryland between January 2014 and September 2014. There was 220 ICE detainer requests that were not complied with, so they're out there. And when you talk about, there's this talk like ICE is some arbitrary agency. No, their own study, January 2014 to September 2014, 9,300 people, they were released from sanctuary jurisdictions because they didn't comply with an ICE detainer. 2,300 of them were rearrested in a 10-month period. So that's really a dangerous population, 2,300 out of 9,300. ICE really is going after the bad guys. Costs here in Maryland, 2010, we had a $1.7 billion shortfall for all the money spent on illegal aliens. It may not for perhaps not costing you guys a lot here, but it is costing folks a lot across the state. I'd also like to mention that there are more than enough programs to cover the transportation and the food and other costs, legal and so on, in this program at the Department of Corrections. So that's false. And another key thing, it's such a lie to say that there's some chilling effect. There is no chilling effect. There is not a single case of an illegal alien coming forward offering information in a court case and being swiftly deported by ICE. It's just false. You can get a U visa, T visa, S visa, or a Violence Against Women Act visa and be indemnified from deportation.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Baskerville, followed by Noel Levy.
Hello, I'm a volunteer with the Baltimore County Campaign for Liberty. I'm here presenting you roughly 2,000 petitions on behalf of Baltimore County citizens who are opposed to the so-called sanctuary policy, as well as in support of the 287G program. And so I just want to say, Councilman Quirk, I appreciate you keeping order over this meeting. I also hope you, Councilwoman Bevins, Councilman Jones, and Councilwoman Almond will also keep order in Baltimore County by discouraging illegal immigration where those immigrants commit crimes. We don't, I mean, do you want to attract illegal immigrant criminals or not to Baltimore County? And the 287G is clearly targeting only criminals who commit further crimes beyond just illegally immigrating here. If you are concerned about protecting people who are not victimizing anybody, then I would consider, rather than voting against this legislation, rather look at other legislation such as, insurance violations that you mentioned, Mr. Jones, and other petty victimless crimes that could potentially be either eliminated altogether or reduced if you really want to protect those people's rights. So I hope you're not disingenuous about actually protecting people's liberty in that sense, because you can easily look at those laws separately while still passing the 287G legislation in Bill 3217. So who can I deliver these petitions to?
Well, I have a question. Were they done electronically, or did you go door to door?
A little bit of both. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker.
One question.
Mark
Baskerville.
Mr. Baskerville, I forgot to ask you, are you a resident of Baltimore County? All right,
thank you. Our next speaker is Noel Levy, followed by Eric Roby.
Good afternoon. It seems that today fear is a major topic that we've had to deal with. I'm opposed to Bill 32-17. I am fearful of the racism this bill can engender. I am fearful of the bigotry this bill can encourage. I fear that this bill is un-American. I fear that this bill is absolutely unnecessary. I am really fearful that Baltimore County will become ground zero for racial profiling on steroids because of this bill. I fear that this bill is mean-spirited. I am very afraid that this bill is politically motivated. And I've had a lot of experience with undocumented immigration. I grew up in West Texas. I lived in Texas for 36 years. Undocumented immigration is a statewide joke in Texas. I remember as a kid, we all knew about the agricultural industry and the construction industry bringing in people from across the border. They were paid under the table, cash. They spread out into hundreds of other businesses all across the Southwest, from Texas to California. And since then, all of these undocumented immigrants, and there's millions of them now, and they've married, they've had children, they brought in their cousins, their brothers, their sisters, other relatives. There's a lot of them here, and everyone has looked the other way in most cases for decades, and this is the now it's become politically fashionable to mistreat these people, to abuse them and herd them into buses and ship them out.
Thank you. Appreciate
Please don't mistreat our immigrants in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Eric Roby, followed by Alui XIA. Is Eric Roby here? Eric? Okay. Our next speaker, Alui XIA. Thank you. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Good afternoon. I'm Shuni. I'm here to support 287G. You might be surprised to see immigrants like me to support this bill. To me, I think the conflict we see now is no other than a struggle between sense and sensibility for those who are against and supporting those illegal immigrants. I think the criteria to choose between sense or sensibility depends on whether we have abundant resource, especially in the era of globalization. We have many closed factories and business in America. We have a slow economic recovery from 2008 financial meltdown. And we have overcrowded schools in many districts of Baltimore County for over a decade, and increased criminal records in Montgomery County since it became a central city. Therefore, I support 287G. Of course, people see things differently. If you think we have abundant resources and therefore support illegal immigrants out of humanitarian reasons, that's even better. We as the immigration group are going to make big advertisement to people in our hometown about the abundant resource and open door policy here at Baltimore County. We are going to tell people to come here immediately. The air is fresh. People here are super nice and with good heart. Come here as a traveler and do not go back. Stay here illegally until you get a citizenship. Now it is much easier to go through this process than our time because you are protected. Even if you are illegally, you are treated nicely and there's no consequence of breaking the immigration law. Then it will become really interesting to see what will happen to Baltimore County after a while. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Xin Yi. Is Xin Yi here? And then followed by Lance Conklin.
Dear Council members, today I'm not going to waste your time and list any crimes due to illegal immigration because MS-13 is all over the news already. I just want to present some statistics. According to an ICE report, in the 19-month period from 2014 and September 2015, more than 17,000 ICE detainers were rejected by local jurisdictions, and 62% of those detainers were issued for individuals with prior criminal history. I'm deeply concerned about this because Baltimore has similar policies and not honoring all ICE detainers without a judicial warrant. Many detainees with prior criminal history might be released after 48 hours. I'm an immigrant, but I'm not threatened by this bill. Legal immigrants have to go through a scrutinized process, including fingerprinting and criminal background checks, because before we even get admitted to this country and obtain any legal residency. But the illegal immigrants simply made a choice to cross the fence. It's not only irresponsible for their own families, but also for the other citizens of this country. What I will never understand is why the county executive wants to defy the federal immigration law and place the well-being of the illegal immigrants above the other law-abiding citizens. What I want to see is for Baltimore County to fully cooperate with ICE and make our community a safer place to live. Participating in the 287G program is one step closer to my wish. Therefore, I fully support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lance Conklin, followed by Patricia Sherberboga.
Hello, thank you for letting me talk. My name is Lance Conklin. I'm an immigration attorney. I live in Nottingham and have my own law practice in the same area. I've also been a pastor. I've been a Master of Divinity from Southern Baptist Seminary from California. We settled out here. I originally worked for World Relief. which is the relief arm of National Association of Evangelicals. And then when laid off, I decided to open my own practice. My couple of concerns that I had is why would we be spending resources to do ICE's job? ICE has said that we're doing it inefficiently as a county, and my argument back is no, you're doing it inefficiently and you're blaming the county for that. If it's really an issue of just interviewing people, why go through the trouble of training the officers to do this? Why not, like Harford County, create an extra room just for them to come interview each of the people at the jail? They're trained to do this. They know the questions to ask. We don't have to go through that trouble. Also, I think that it's very important that we keep a divide between the federal immigration and the local police. I represent asylees in this area, some that have fled the problems of MS-13, that still follow them. Social media, people can be run down. I have to be able to tell them that they can trust the police if something happens. While it says that this is going to be something just at the jails, perception is reality. Once you start doing this, word gets out that the police are going to ask immigration questions. And then I'm going to have to work much harder to convince them that they can trust the local police, that they will not ask them immigration questions. And the last thing I really just wanted to throw out there is, as a pastor, I run my practice more by Matthew 23:23, about Jesus really kind of getting after the Pharisees about, they're good about the law, but they're not so good about mercy and compassion. And I think laws should always be passed with the idea of doing it from a merciful and compassionate standpoint.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Patricia Cheriboga, followed by Ning Liu.
Thank you. I'm Patricia Cheriboga-Roby. I, too, am an immigrant. I have been an immigration attorney for almost 20 years. I also taught and supervised law students at the University of Maryland as an adjunct professor, and I provide mentoring to over 50 DOJ-accredited offices through the nation. So I've been working on immigration. First, I agree with you that nobody wants individuals who've committed serious crimes who are not U.S. citizens. I'm the first one to agree with that. And yet my work, I think that we need to keep in mind two things in looking at this bill. First, the unintended consequences of 287G agreements, and also keep in mind that everything has a price. As you've heard, immigration is a complicated area of law. I think that giving correctional officers a month of training really is nothing compared to what they need to do to understand the process when correctional officers are making a mistake and making the determination if someone is in status and is not. What happens is it starts down a process of deportation. This is about deportation. What ICE does is determine who goes into deportation or not. It used to be that the ICE determined priorities, who they wanted to go for deportation after, those individuals that are serious criminals. Now those priorities are gone. ICE has indicated that they're really going to go after anyone that comes across their path. So what happens is that, and if you look at the statistics, almost half of the detainers in 287G programs have been for individuals who have minor violations who are not criminals. I've seen individuals picked up for having a rosary on the rearview mirror. I've seen individuals who are detained for over a year for a probation before judgment for smoking a joint of marijuana. What does this do? It wastes resources, and having deportation process is very expensive. It used to be that ICE had the discretion to say, I'm going to go after this individual and not that individual. But when ICE is being called and now they're going after everyone, it doesn't make sense because individuals who have relief after years of litigation or years of court, they get status. So it is a difficult way to determine, and I agree with Lance, let ICE do their own job.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ning Liu, followed by Lily Lee. Is Ning Liu here? Oh, she left? Okay, our next speaker is Lily Lee, followed by Francis Chow.
Good pronunciation. Thank you. Dear esteemed Baltimore County Council members, my name is Lily Lee, and I'm residing in Cobble Hill, Baltimore County. I'm here this afternoon to support the bill number 3217. I'm a legal immigrant and a U.S. citizen now. Coming here 20 years ago, we came to U.S. in the dream of having a better life with the foundation of law and order, rewarding hardworking and constitutional rights. The greatness of America was built upon those treasured values for the fairness. The news of our Baltimore County's executive order of making our Baltimore County a sanctuary county for illegal immigrant criminals really shocked us of legal immigrant community. We began to ask ourselves, Do away Baltimore County lack of violent criminals that first in from the neighboring Baltimore City? Do we need to make Baltimore County another hub for illegal immigrant criminals like Savage MS-13 and the Bloodhound International gangs? We can't forget that MS-13 and the Bloodhound gangs were sources of several disappearances of young girls of another sanctioned county, Montgomery County. Those young school-age girls were brutally killed and then dumped in woods. We also cannot forget that MS-13 gangs heinously killed 4 young boys in Long Island, New York, and their bodies were unrecognizably traumatized and beaten. Do we, Baltimore County's law-abiding citizens and residents, need to revive the unimaginable crime acts of those gangs? Those gangs' model is kill, rape, and control. The day when Baltimore County becomes another sanctioned county, all those savages will be lured and relocated here. As a mom, I have to consider the safety of my children when those savages are legally minors to be put into our public schools by law. Please, if you have a daughter, a son, a granddaughter, or a son, please vote for 3217. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Francis Chow, followed by Emily Lee. Is Mr. Chow? Good afternoon. Thank you for your patience and
for being here.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I lived here for 50 years, and as a student, I came here, and right now I'm a pastor, and I visited many Maryland jails, detention centers, and I have deep sympathy, compassion with these people, and they need help, but they realize, help is troubling, and I worked there for many years, and I feel, this country is founded, they follow the laws, rules, regulations. This is right. We should follow the government immigration law. Immigration law. And when people come here, we have to follow the rule and the regulations of this country. And in the traffic, and we drive the vehicle, we have to follow the rules and the regulations. If you don't follow the rules and the regulations, you will jeopardize the county, the city. Everybody should follow the rules and the regulations. So therefore, I feel I urge all of you to support the Bill 3217, to purify this country, to be a real livable place. And we love this country. I'm also a citizen. I love this country.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. Our next speaker is Emily Lee, followed by Matthew Vokey. Is Emily Lee here at Egerton Farm? All right. Matthew Vocci, V-O-C-C-I. Is Matthew here? Going once. And then our last speaker is Nino Mangione. Good afternoon.
I come here today to support what I believe is a common sense approach, a common sense bill. I believe those against this bill are quite simply supporting criminal behavior, or advocating for criminals. I think the bill is designed to get illegal alien criminals out of our communities, out of our county. I believe that it does nothing more than ask for assistance from the federal government. I think you are making it easier for individuals to commit acts that they've already committed, again, that got them into the prison in the first place or into this situation. I think the problem here, and I don't want to make this one political or one side or the other, but I am tired of being called a racist or a genocidal maniac, which I've heard some people say. Tired if you don't feel, if I didn't like Barack Obama, it's because I don't like black people, or Hillary Clinton because I don't like women. It's the same tired labels. I think we're tired of that. I think the Federation of American Immigration Reform came up with these numbers that said the cost, because that's been one of the things here, was cost of illegal immigration to this state alone was $1.9 billion. So then we had the argument about the cost of a couple $1 million when it's $1.9 billion between education, health care, justice and law enforcement, public assistance. I agree 100% with the legal aliens back there who are being demeaned by the idea of illegal immigration, the years they put forward, but following the laws. When the word immigrant, is people that are here as immigrants are scared, I don't think they are, as proven by the legal immigrants saying that they're not. It's not about where you're from, it's about your legal status. And I believe this bill, which I support again, I urge others, is to work on getting the criminals out of this county. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Well, first of all, before we get into closing comments and remarks from the council members, once again, I wanted to thank all of you, both sides, for coming out. I mean, given your testimony, we really, as a council, appreciate the public input, and we take it seriously. So we all appreciate your time. It's been a long session. And now I wanted to open up with closing remarks or comments from the members before we adjourn. And I'll start. When this first all came about, I was absolutely convinced that this whole thing would be an argument about the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. I mean, I thought I was going to hear Fourth Amendment over and over and over ad nauseum today. But we haven't really heard too much about the Fourth Amendment, which, of course, protects citizens, against unreasonable search and seizure. And I want to make it very clear that nobody's saying that Baltimore County is not going to, detain criminals or bad people. No one's saying that. What we're really saying is that we're going to detain criminals or people that should be off the streets. Just simply give us a judicial warrant. That's what we're saying. And so just real quickly, where did the Fourth Amendment come about with the United States Constitution prohibiting unreasonable search and seizure? It requires governmental search and seizures to be conducted only upon issuance of a warrant, judicially sanctioned by probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. It is part of the Bill of Rights. It was adopted in response to abuse by the British government, lots of tyranny, a major source of pre-revolutionary tension. And by the way, the Fourth Amendment was introduced in Congress in 1789 by James Madison. And also, it should be noted that Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson adopted the adoption of this amendment. So I'm proud to stand with the framers of the Constitution on this issue. Other speakers.
Mr. Chair.
Councilman Cranmer.
I would like to remind you that the agreement with ICE can be constructed in a way that we would not be detaining people past their sentencing. So I'm just reminding you of that. So we're not illegally detaining people if we construct the agreement that way.
I would remind you what's wrong with getting a judicial warrant. That's due process. That's the Fourth Amendment. That's the way this country is governed under the Constitution. But thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I would like to make a comment.
Councilwoman Evans.
I've made a few observations here today. First, I would like to point out a few for Mr. Catch. You do use the word sanctuary on your website. You said that you didn't, but you do. So I just want to bring that to your attention. You said earlier that you do not say that, and I have it off your website. So I just want to make that clear. And second, we've been talking about this for a couple weeks, and you say this is so driven by your district and your people so want this, and, it's just what District 3 wants. There was no one here from District 3 today to support you. Everyone here from your district opposed you. No, I took very good notes. I took everyone that spoke who said they were from the 3rd District was in opposition to this. But I don't know where the hundreds and the thousands of the people are that you always say support these things that you do. For Campaign for Liberty, I just want to say, you know, when you put your literature out in people's neighborhoods and your Facebook pages and your websites, you're not truthful. You tell people we are already supporting or not supporting something when we haven't even had a work session. Your documents are taking off the internet, so we don't know whose district they come from. Anyone can type a name in there. We really want petitions from people that understand what the issue is, and for people to stand face to face and explain that, and for somebody to actually write their name down, not hide behind Facebook. And you know, it would be nice just once when you use a picture of Councilwoman Vicki Almond or myself, that'd be a little more flattering. Yeah, and I want to know where the barbed wire fence is, because you always use the barbed wire fence with everybody climbing over it. I just want to know, is that in my district? I'm just curious. Didn't think so. Okay.
Are you, Councilwoman Evans? Are
Yeah,
you,
so that's what I would say. And I wanted to thank everybody for coming out today. I know that this is an issue that is emotionally charged for a lot of people. I've heard from a lot of people in my district. I've heard from people in other districts as well. And I just want to thank you. It was a very lengthy work session, and I want to thank everybody again for coming out.
Councilman Jones?
Let me just take this opportunity to just thank everybody for coming out. Really appreciate everybody, very passionate statements, especially, and it will stick with me for quite some time, the young lady from Owens Mills, who's very, very fearful that she will be separated from her mother. Very fearful that she will be separated from her mother. And then, to be quite frank, I'm just beside myself. God bless America, and everybody has a right to their opinions. And I appreciate everybody coming here. But some folks, maybe they never heard of a slippery slope. Because when I stand here and see immigrants from China stand here and say they're against this, I'm thinking to myself, the same people that are for this 287, they want you gone too. So don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. Don't think because you somehow filed the paperwork and you're here that they don't want you gone too. So I think, you know, when I see bills like this, you know, I see a red herring. I see people saying it's measured, it's moderate, it doesn't really mean anything. INS is going to come and give you an ice cream cone. They're going to treat you so well. I think they're being disingenuous, and I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I think that this bill is disruptive. It is not necessary. And to somehow say that if you are opposed to the bill, you're somehow opposed to criminals. And I mean, I was just the other day, and I'm reading it right now, in Brooklyn, 3 detention officers, federal detention officers, have been charged with rape and abusing immigrants who are there waiting to be deported in Brooklyn, New York. Now, I'm not saying that every detention officer is a bad person, but the point I'm making is you can't keep isolating one particular incident and somehow saying that that's it for everybody. So, again, I guess thank everybody for coming. I really appreciate it. And when you leave here today, just think about not just that young lady who spoke about fear that she would be separated from her mother, but think about all the other people that have similar fears that could not make it here today. So I thank you all for coming out. Appreciate it.
Councilman Katz, did you have anything you want to say?
Yeah, just that I did have constituents here today in support of the bill. Absolutely. Just look at the sheet. Just look at the sheet. You'll see where they live, and they are constituents of mine. So please don't attack me for that.
Okay.
No. Well, I think you just did.
Anything else? Councilman Marks?
Well, thank you. I just want to echo what my colleagues have said. For everyone who attended, it's difficult to take off from work and come here for 2.5 hours and testify. I would like to thank all those for delivering impassioned but generally polite comments. A lot of the facts that were brought up, I appreciate the research that has been done on this subject, and also a lot of the complex constitutional issues that have been raised. The chair mentioned the 4th Amendment. It's also the 10th Amendment, which is the underpinning of federalism. And there's a lot of complex constitutional issues involved here, and I want to thank you all for raising those issues. I just want to close by saying that you may not know this, but this was the first work session that was actually live streamed. The Facebook page, the Baltimore County government, is not maintained by us. It's maintained by the county executive's office. We have our own live streaming of the work sessions. We don't filter things. And I think for those who are viewing this at home, they got a good lesson in civics today. So thank you all very much for coming.
Councilman Crandall?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to echo my colleagues' comments. One of the things that I said in, I believe, in the Baltimore Sun article earlier or late last week was that I would hope that, knowing how emotionally charged that this issue is, that we would conduct ourselves with a level of decorum worthy of these chambers. And I believe that both my colleagues and you all did that by and large today. So it's great to see democracy in action. This is certainly a tough issue. I do want to let Councilman Jones know that as a supporter of this bill and the lead sponsor, I don't want the legal immigrants here today that are in support of the bill. I don't want them to leave. I'm proud to be an American with them. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any additional further comments?
Let me just say I don't want to cast any disparaging remarks against my colleague. I certainly apologize if you took it that way. It was not intended to include you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Let's continue the debate over the next week.
And then, again, thank you all for coming out. Beauty about this country, obviously, is we can agree to disagree, but this is democracy in action, and please don't stop. Keep it going. We got a long way to go. Please have a safe drive home. Thank you.